Was beginning in 1908. It's the employees that have formed the company's solid foundation. Start your career today with Ready Mixed Concrete. Visit nebcoinc.com. That's NEBCOINC.com.
Hey everyone, this is Austin Orman from Old School with Foreman and Orman, live from 1040 O Street in the heart of downtown Lincoln, weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. My favorite thing about downtown Lincoln has to be the year-round energy. Downtown Lincoln never stops. It's easy to get to, has everything you could need or want in dining, entertainment, and retail, and of course it has Lincoln's best sports talk, proudly located in downtown Lincoln on the corner of 11th and O.
This message is brought to you by the Downtown Lincoln Association and 93.7 The Ticket.
Coming at you live from the heart of downtown Lincoln, this is Old School with Foreman and Orman. Old School with Foreman and Orman is sponsored by Graham Tire Company of Lincoln, Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman.
Here's Troy Detmer dropping straight back in the pocket. Rifles a pass. It was tipped. It's picked off by Foreman. He's at the 15, 10, 5. He'll score! Foreman got it, and it's touchdown Huskers.
Black shirts answer the call one more time.
And Austin Orman. Hour one of Old School is sponsored by Heartland of Nebraska Windows. Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Yes, it is. Welcome in Tuesday edition of Old School. Austin Orman here and Nick Wyman there, just like we were 21 hours ago or so. Nick, welcome back to Old School, my friend.
Yeah, long time no see. I mean, I was here for the Royals recap following Old School yesterday, and now we're here back again. Like you said, 21 hours, not even, getting flashbacks to Monday, but usual Tuesday. Last week was a little different though. I was not here on a Tuesday for a rare Jay Foreman appearance. You were able to call the Batman signal, as you say, and here he is. Jay Foreman appears and able to make it work. But yeah, we're back to our usual Tuesday hour slot. Harrison filling in for the others. So glad to be back, but pretty nice day. It's not raining. Usually my trend is I come here on Mondays and it's like 90 degrees and then it's like 50 degrees the next day, cloudy until Friday. So it looks like the weather might be behind us and we got the nice spring weather, softball, baseball in the air. You love to see it.
You do indeed love to see it. And you do indeed love days like this here in late spring / early summer where there's plenty to talk about. It's going to be a jam-packed, loaded show for everyone today. But we will always, as we do, find time for your comments, 402-464-5685. Eric, don't be disappointed. Jay is who we thought he was. A slacker who needs his days off. He's load managing. He needs his rest. He's on a pitch count, on a minutes restriction, on a snap count, I guess would be the football way to phrase that. So, no, Jay is who we thought he was. To his credit, he did make some effort to come in today, but it just did not end up working out, which is a dang shame because he has pretty much all of next week off with state baseball. So,
and he had the last week. He was back home this past week, so he's getting a nice May breather. Just to enjoy the weather, to be back with family. I mean, you're never gonna say anything about that, but yeah, next week it's state.
I'll say something about that. That's my co-host, but
to his credit, it's also state baseball is in line with the show during the first pitch times, which. Hey, rightfully so. Hey, that's just how it goes. He's not, he doesn't have to hang out here all day. I mean, he could technically, but he's Jay Foreman. Who are we to say what Jay Foreman has to do? But then again, he's your co-host, so maybe you have a little bit of pull there.
I do not have enough pull with Jay Foreman, even after 3 years of being on a show with him.
Not.
So it goes. Eric says he's got those old man knees. Of the not working body parts, I think the knees are actually pretty low down the list. Jay complains about his ankles and his neck and his back. Sometimes his shoulders, before he ever gets to his knees. I don't think the knees are the problem.
Head, shoulders, knees, and toes is what I just heard about Jay Foreman. But maybe one day.
I've only heard that song about 17 times this week.
That's again, like you, obviously that's why I brought it up. So yeah, head, shoulders, knees, and toes. That's the Jay Foreman ritual, the go-to song. Maybe you can gear that up and have it ready to go. But yeah, Jay Foreman, maybe one day we will understand the pains of getting older in life. So Jay Foreman, miss you. It's a privilege to be here for you.
That's one way to phrase it. You're more respectful than I would have been. Anyways, 402-464-5685. Let's get to the news of the day, some of which was reported and written by our very own Steve Sipple in his day job, right? He moonlights as a radio host here on Early Break, but of course, Sip has been a lifelong writer. And he wrote today for Husker Online some really interesting stuff regarding the financial numbers for Nebraska. I'll just rip straight from Sip's piece. If you're like me and say Nebraska in Rule's fourth season should be closing the gap significantly on the Big Ten's elite teams, as in it's time to win or at least come very close, baby, you might consider some financial data that Husker Online received last week from a source. According to the data, Oregon and Ohio State are among a half dozen teams nationally with rosters that exceed $50 million in combined rev share and NIL. Indiana is part of the next group, which is estimated to be between 45 and 50 million. Meanwhile, Nebraska sits at 29 million. Based on data, the Huskers would be ranked 25th to 30th nationally, millions of dollars behind the elite. Yes, I trust this data in part because it jibes with what Rule has been saying privately and publicly. That's a gap. That's a massive gap. A national champion is now spending between 45 and 50 million to run it back. Oregon, who was the 1 seed 2 years ago, is now spending 50 million, and Ohio State, who won the dang thing 2 years ago, also spending more than $50 million in rev share and NIL. And there are at least 4 other teams that are up at that number. Nebraska at 29 million. Number one, that number should sound a little bit funny in terms of roster spending because the rev share cap is 20.5 million, maybe going up to 21.3 million for this coming year. Either way, that's an extra $7 to $8 million over the rev share cap. But we know that that's, a deal because of the outside NIL, which is still allowed. And we'll get to the College Sports Commission and arbitration ruling on this here in just a little bit. But we heard it reported that of that $20.5 million, 75% of that was going to football, roughly $15 million. So to get to 29, let's subtract that 15. That leaves you with approximately $14 million. We can then go to some reporting from Ross Dellinger, who's been all over this Nebraska versus CSC kind of story. And Ross Dellinger says that according to the finding in the arbitration, Playfly agreed to direct $10.25 million of its university fee to its NIL fund, aka the rosters. A whopping $7.5 million of that was rejected in the arbitration ruling. So let's just take that smaller figure. That's $7.5 million. So 15 plus 7.5 gets you to, let's say, $22.5 million.
Yep.
That means, according to my rough math, Nebraska is getting approximately $6.5 million given to the football program for the roster from outside the rev share and outside of its agreement with Playfly. And we'll get to that again here a little bit more in depth in just a minute. $6.5 million. That's a lot of money. That's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of college football right now.
To you and me, $6.5 million is a lot of money. A lot of, Nebraskans, that's a lot of money. But in the big world of college, for the ever-evolving world of college football, you mentioned some of those teams, Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana, teams in the same conference up in that $45, $50 million echelon in total. Nebraska sitting in that 29. You do the math. The math is mathing. Not my strongest subject in school, but
likewise.
But it is. You do the quick little numbers and crunch it down. 29 million is way less than what the other teams are spending compared to the big boys, like the Oregon. Like you said, they were at number 1 seed a couple years ago. Dylan Gabriel was there. Then you have Ohio State, who won the national championship that year. And then you have Indiana this past year, a team that's trying to run it back through the transfer portal, and they're recruiting with Kurt Signetti. It's very interesting because you throw in the CSC situation in there as well. We'll get into the numbers. You're crunching them, 29 million. I mean, it's still not a pay to win. I don't think it's a sport where it's pay to win. You still need to go out there on Saturdays and play in college football. Still have to handle business because we've seen time and time again, some teams pay for a big quarterback, comes back to bite them in the end. They have a 7-5 season across the board, 8-4. That's just not only just in the Big Ten, but just college football in general. And then, the Power Four is going to be able to spend the money. We've seen that obviously with the ACC, the Big Ten, the SEC, especially over the years. And that's just mid-majors aren't able to do that. But it's interesting with Nebraska's circumstance. You mentioned all the numbers across the board, where it's coming from and who from where. And then you throw in this arbitration hearing, which arbitration hearings, I'm used to accustomed in baseball only, not going to football. And now we're going down that rabbit hole with this whole ordeal. That was kind of a story in January, kind of got swept on the rug. And like you mentioned, Ross Dellinger has been a big part of hearing about all the news out of it. Comes out yesterday with Nebraska's side with that. And it's just an interesting factor. And you hear, obviously, the big boys, the Ohio States, the Oregons, the Indianas, your teams who are bringing in a lot of money for putting together the product on the field, and they're winning. I mean, I don't think necessarily money equals wins, but in the world of college football, that's just how some teams see it.
It is indeed. And I'm going to keep this conversation moving forward by going back to this thing that Sipple says. Based on data, the Huskers would be ranked 25th to 30th nationally, millions of dollars behind the elite. And we can get to this here from Haddo on our Starter Heyman Jewelers text line. Says, blah, 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 coach up your players. Indiana didn't have that much of a roster when Sig started his run. Nebraska will always blame losing on something. Pay for the trenches and everything else will fall in place. Give Rule my number if he doesn't know this already. Yes, agree. And Nebraska is not necessarily spending or, getting the results of a top 25 to 30 team. Troy Dannon, at that, I think it was at the extension press conference, asked, do we have coaches that are going to get $1 and turn it into $1.25, or are they going to turn it into 75 cents? Right now, Nebraska's turning it into about 75 cents, if that, on the dollar that they spend. The results aren't even matching up with this level of spending for Nebraska. Now, I doubt Nebraska was spending $29 million for last year. Maybe that's going to show an improvement in not just the investment monetarily, but maybe that means, okay, there's better talent and now better coaching with, the Jeep Wade hire, Rob Orge coming in as well. Of course, that all remains to be seen. But holy cow, if you're spending $29 million and you're only, 25th to 30th in overall spending, where I agree with you, it's not everything. I've long maintained, in light of the Dodgers in baseball and plenty of other teams in the NBA, spending more just gives you a bigger margin for error. It doesn't necessarily guarantee the wins, like you said. But if this is the world that Nebraska is in, it's why I thought it was so necessary to break it down into Nebraska is getting approximately, let's say between $6 to $8 million in outside non-university affiliated money. That's not a lot, because let's say that those other schools are getting that same, $22.5 million. Ohio State, Oregon, for example, that means they're raising an extra 22 mil on top of what Nebraska's doing. If that's the case, no matter how much we can agree that, yes, development will always take the cake. Yes, you just have to find the right players and coach them up. $22 million year after year is a lot of ground to make up, and I'm not sure how or if Nebraska can even do that.
And you mentioned the 22 to $29 million, and like you said, what are they, 25th, 30th round nationally. Nebraska, like you said, they are paying that chunk of money across the board, the NIL, rev share, outside whatever the $6 million there is as well, around that number. Nebraska hasn't been a top 25 team.
No.
Even
They've barely been top 45.
Exactly. And you're paying that X amount of dollars, and obviously money is what college football is around, and that's what driving the NCAA with the sport in general. But Nebraska, if you're saying like, okay, money equals wins, it doesn't. Nebraska, we don't know what the roster is like the last couple of years. This year, obviously, we'll see what happens. Like you mentioned, we'll see when the product goes on the field in the fall here in the coming months. We're sitting here in mid-May. We have June, July, and then August. It will really ramp up before that kickoff against Ohio to start the season. But Nebraska, not really getting the bang for their buck across the board when you're saying, oh, we're top 25 in the nation in this. But on the field, you're hovering around that 6-6, 7-5 window.
2086 says football might be getting 25 cents back on the dollar. Brad says Nebraska should just do the 2009 model, spend everything on defense and score just enough to win. Kind of sounds like you're talking about Iowa, except that I don't know where Iowa's spending its money, right? Clearly, a lot has been poured into the offensive line, into the tight end room, and they continue to take swings, if not connect at the quarterback position, but they've been established on that side of the ball. Nebraska is still looking to establish. 1508 says, I'm guessing Minnesota spent maybe half of what Nebraska did, and they dog walked us. The everyday Nebraskan would give money once they see there's a chance of winning right now, and fans don't see that chance in that sport. I don't know what Minnesota spent. I don't necessarily want to comment on, what I would guess they would be spending, because I just don't know. But I'm guessing that Nebraska is still, in the top half of the Big Ten in spending. I would guess. I would hope. I think that's probably the bare minimum. And I'm sure Nebraska has gotten passed on the field by some of these teams that are spending less.
And you also mentioned like Iowa. They're a team that Kurt Ferentz has been there forever. He's been there forever, and they know their identity, regardless of who the quarterback is. Whether it's Mark Gronowski, whether it's Nate Stanley, whether it's James Vandenberg, throwing out some legendary Iowa quarterbacks. The way you look at them there, but then he has an offensive line, defensive line to lean on. They always have great special teams for some reason, regardless of the year with Kurt Ferentz. And then you mentioned tight ends, George Kittle, Noah Fant, have come through that program, and they have an identity. That's the biggest thing. Like, we don't know Nebraska's identity heading into 2026. We're sitting here. We saw a little bit of flashes in the spring game across the board, what you might see. We still didn't really get a full answer what it's going to look like. We'll find out more once those first 3 games go by, and then Big Ten play ramps up at that Michigan State game. But for teams like Minnesota, we know what PJ Fleck has. We know what he's going to bring every year, whether it be Tanner Morgan being the quarterback across the board, whether it be another name, whether it be Mo Ibrahim being the running back, a guy who Nebraska fans know pretty well by now. He had some pretty big games while he was the Gophers running back during those years in the 2020s. And then you have Iowa, just a team that has, what you're going to get. Is it the most flashy play? No, but it gets wins to their standards of what they expect.
Yeah.
Identity, regardless of money, you need an identity on the offensive side and the defensive side. Nebraska's hoping they bring that in with Rob Orich, Geep Wade on the offensive line, bring in also those transfers on the O-line, the 4 of the 5 guys they're looking to put out there as well for the 2026 season. So identity, I think, is the biggest thing, because Nebraska, it's changed depending on who the quarterback is. It's changed, depending on who your defensive coordinator is. You need to establish that right away. That is why Iowa sometimes, or in Minnesota, I'm not, like I said, I don't know the numbers either with you. I'm not going to speak on what their numbers are for the rev share and company, but they have coaches who have the philosophy to what the identity of the team is going to be.
Craig, I appreciate you sending in this graph from Sportico.
Okay.
I don't think I'm able to pop it up on screen right now, but as I'm looking at it, trying to do a quick count, Nebraska, it's about football ticket sales and basketball ticket sales on both the men's and women's side. And Nebraska is in the same neighborhood of football ticket sales as Wisconsin and Iowa. And then in the same range as basketball as well. There's a cluster that I'm looking at of 3 teams. The next closest teams to that group then are Oregon, which is getting a little bit more in football and quite a bit less in basketball. And then Michigan State, that's getting a little bit more in basketball, a little bit less in football. But just pure football ticket sale revenue, Nebraska is looking, 22.5, 23 million right there. That's behind 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 other teams. So Nebraska, approximately number 18 in the country in revenue just from football ticket sales. And there's some big names that they're behind. Texas A&M, Michigan, Ohio State. And you get to even Arkansas, Tennessee, Bama, LSU, Oklahoma, Penn State, Georgia, Clemson, Florida, Washington, Colorado. And there's one in Oregon, and then there's one logo hidden behind Washington and Colorado that I can't see right now. So, yeah, people pay to go to Nebraska football games. I wonder if that would be more a comment on the size of Memorial Stadium, the price of the tickets, average price, or whatnot. But Nebraska being in the same neighborhood as Iowa and Wisconsin in ticket revenue overall from both basketball and football combined is in itself another statement. These are your neighbors. This is your competition. Have you been consistently better than them? No. Iowa football is maximizing its dollars more than you are. Wisconsin basketball, until 3 years ago, was certainly maximizing its dollars. And Wisconsin really hasn't had the fall off that I've been waiting for. I think basketball is certainly, pulling its fair share of the weight right now. But that's an interesting graph, Craig. I appreciate you sharing it. Claytonia John says, we just need a salary cap in college sports and call it a day. I hate talking about this side of sports because it's ruining college sports. Well, Claytonia John, I apologize that these conversations are here to stay. I also apologize because we were supposed to have a salary cap of sorts.
They were.
A rev share cap, the $20.5 million. Guess what? That was supposed to be the amount that schools can share with their players. And I would like to think they're abiding by that. But just like an NBA free agency, an NFL free agency, Major League Baseball free agency, if you're a superstar, why do you want to go to a big city? The marketing opportunities above and beyond. You are never going to win in court, as the NCAA has found. If you're going to tell players how much they can or cannot make, if you try to limit their earnings based off of their name, image, and likeness rights. You can tell every school in Division I in whatever sport They have $20.5 million of athletic revenues to spread around to whatever programs. They're all cool with that. It is a fact of life, not necessarily even a problem to be solved. It's just a fact. Ohio State, Michigan, your Texas schools are going to have more money, right? LSU is pouring a lot in right now. Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Florida, pulling a lot in right now. The same way that, I don't know, if you're a famous superstar, you want to go to New York or to Los Angeles or to Miami or maybe to Chicago. These hubs of marketing and personal branding where you can earn more money. That's why, Milwaukee isn't a free agency destination, or Sacramento isn't a free agency destination, or, Salt Lake City, or, Kansas City, as much as I love it. Just on and on down the list, they're just not the same hub. There's just not that same ceiling. These pro leagues don't cap the amount of marketing deals or the amount they get paid for them. It's baked in. You know that it's part of the deal. College sports is the same way. You're not going to be able to limit that money up and above the salary cap because it's not coming from the schools.
Well, and then you have like just college football. You have 120 teams in the FBS level, 130 plus teams in the FBS level. Let's say you're a recruit and you have an opportunity to go play at the next level, and you have anywhere from Ohio State and maybe a school like Virginia to offers you. Mm-hmm. Well, you have those two options right there, which is a more appealing opportunity for you, not only for playing, but also for, television markets to see, play in the marquee games that are going to be on network television and potentially get more opportunities to go. I mean, even like an LSU, let's say LSU in Virginia. LSU, obviously, big name in college sports across what they're doing with their coaches down the line from basketball all the way to football. You have the opportunity right there. But like Virginia, they're a school that's going to get a lot of those noon Eastern time kickoffs on the ACC network, and your games are not going to be marking. Virginia, a very solid football team this past year as well.
Yeah. Good university.
But look at the location. You're going to LSU. You're going to a place where a lot of NFL players have come from, a lot of really good players, even the Ohio State one. If you're a quarterback and you have the choice between that, you have more opportunity. Like I said, more branding opportunity to go there too. And that's an easy decision. And I don't think a salary cap would work because how would a Sun Belt team? You can't just say, oh, you had $20 million, Troy. Good luck. See what
Go find 20 mil.
How are you going to be able to put together a roster of 20 mil? Because you're going to have to either one, overspend, and then you're kind of in a bad situation then if one of those players does that. And then if you're spending, X amount of dollars on player here and they want to enter the transfer portal, they're just going to use that as a leveraging ploy to go to, LA, New York, those towns like that. And, it's apples to oranges with professional sports and college sports still, I think, because you can't really just say, all right, this is how much money, because there's so many different factors with TV rights for the Big 10, the Big 12, everything out. There's Power 4 and the mid-majors as well. I don't know how they can factor, because I don't think a Troy or a Coastal Carolina, or et cetera, is going to be able to spend as much as $20 million. Because I guarantee you they're not spending as much compared to the big boys in college football.
Yeah, I mean, they're just annual revenue streams. They're just lower, And so if they are spending $20 million a year, either they're incredibly well positioned or they've kind of saved up for this window. We're going all in. Our moment is now. We're going to spend this money. We got to pay it off. It's got to be a college football playoff appearance to refill the coffers. And that's a tough thing to bank on going all in for 1 year.
For a mid-major too. Like you have 1 year and let's say that goes awry. Well, you just lost it there. And then,
well, even Texas Tech, how long is Cody Campbell going to want to spend all this money? Felt like Texas Tech was going a little bit all in for last year, end up quarterback short. They're going all in for this year, and now their quarterback's gone.
Yeah,
you can do everything right, and something outside your control can still go wrong.
You still need coaching. You still need development. Money is money. Like it's obviously it makes the world go round. It doesn't grow on trees. But at the end of the day, you still need coaching. You still need identity. You have to manage it all together. I think that's what's big in college sports, especially college football nowadays, because Lane Kiffin with LSU, that team's spending a lot too. They're still Lane Kiffin's still Lane Kiffin's still going to need to put the product on the field at LSU because they had Brian Kelly there. Where coming off, a couple of years ago, Ed Orgeron led that team with Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, et cetera, to a championship. And then next year with Ed Orgeron, you really thought, oh, LSU's got this huge peak. Well, they lost everybody, end up falling off real quickly during that COVID season. Ed Orgeron's out the door, bring in Brian Kelly from Notre Dame, even like a Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley with Oklahoma had everything made there, goes to USC, and it was like, all right, he's got Caleb Williams, a very good chance to, stockpile wins, put together whatever with the USC program, bring them back to where they were in the early 2000s. Now we're in a situation where you look at their schedules here, it's like, Are they going to go 9-3? Are they going to go 8-4 across the board? And you have Lincoln Riley, a very good quarterback coach. He's had obviously Kyler Murray, Caleb Williams, Baker Mayfield, everybody in between there. But they still need the identity and still need to put it together, especially USC, a team still trying to figure out with the Big Ten, because they're kind of like the UCLA basketball. When they go to the Midwest, struggle to find wins in the Midwest and the East Coast.
Rich says, solution, put a $10 million cap on any one sport. Rich, I think you're misunderstanding what we're saying. That's not necessarily a solution, because even if you could only spend, $10 million of your revenue sharing piece of the pie, these outside companies, these outside endorsement deals can go above and beyond that. And that's what's not going to be limited. And that's where I think Nebraska ends up falling behind. If, Nebraska had the same $20.5 million to work with, and that's all anybody could spend on their athletes in terms of, the revenue sharing, and there was no third-party NIL stuff going on, sure, maybe your solution would work. But it's because of the presence of these other outside deals. Nebraska tried to sneak the Playfly money through, got rejected, said, nope, you can't necessarily be doing that. The contract wasn't written the right way. And we can get to exactly what went wrong in our next segment. But, if all it was, hey, if you as an athletic department bring in $20.5 million up to, $21.3 million this next year, so on and so forth, any of that money is earmarked to go back to the athletes, divided up however you want. As long as you don't give more than $10 million from that pool to any one sport, there's an argument there. But that's not going to solve the NIL part of this.
No,
because the rev share numbers are the same across the board. The NIL numbers are not.
The salary cap wouldn't fix anything. It was a good idea, I guess, at the time, because there was supposed to be one, but teams can go above and beyond. I mean, we talked about Mark Cuban a couple of weeks ago with his alleged put together revenue for Indiana's football team and his connection with the Mendoza family. We talked about that last week. I think it was Wednesday. 6 days ago.
Well, so sorry. Scott says if the NCAA would make the outside deals illegal, then you could get a $10 million salary cap. If they found out a player received those outside deals, the university should be held accountable and banned from postseason play. Those deals can't be illegal anymore. That's part of this whole deal, is that, the name, image, and likeness rights that I can capitalize on, that you can capitalize on, that anyone, out there can capitalize on, was being withheld from college athletes. They were not allowed to be paid to go promote events or promote other companies for no good reason. It's those exact kind of deals that are NIL that have been, the NCAA got smacked in court, being told you can't prevent these players from using their name, image, and likeness. Okay, so Scott, you're arguing what the NCAA did essentially for the last 100 years. And that argument has lost in court for the last year and a half. It's not going to hold up because it's not fair.
And you can't argue with the court system. You can't.
You can try, but it hasn't worked.
And that's just the age of college sports now. NIL, they fought for it for the longest time. I remember in the 2000s, you heard about it. And then throughout the 2010s, it was a big talking point. And then you obviously, how it's blossomed into everything it's been since the 2019s. And when it first officially got waved that, hey, you guys can make money off your own name, image, and likeness. And this can be something you could do, whether that be appear in commercials, whether that be sponsored by said event, whether it be sponsored by a certain brand. That's just something that it's become, and it's exploded. And that's just, I mean, and rightfully so. You're a college athlete. What am I going to say? I mean, I'm not going to go against the players and go for a university, but I see both sides of things. But at the end of the day, it's the court system. You can't go awry with what they say.
Scott, I think you're still a little bit off base here, and you're kind of forgetting where we've come from. He says they made those rules to go at the universities, not private businesses. It's the universities who are responsible for it. Well, then why did we have collectives to begin with? Okay, that was the whole point, is that players wanted to make deals. In some cases, it was coming from the university, which, was held to be illegal. And then that's where we got the rev share from. But, think about the private donors to universities. They would give money to them, so it would look like pay for play in some cases. Hey, we'll give you this money, use it on this athlete. Hey, we'll give you this money. We know it's going toward this athlete. And so, no, the rules weren't necessarily made to go at the universities. The rules were made to limit the compensation for college athletes. Yes, pay for play, come to this institution because we have money, we'll pay you. It doesn't feel great, but it's free agency. That's the way the world in the pros, and that's the world that we live in now. But that's why, again, the collective model didn't really make sense, and why it went away pretty quickly is because the collectives were just there as a middle ground to make it appear more legal. But now we have the universities paying with the rev share. We have the private businesses paying with the NIL. Neither one is going away. You can cap, you've been allowed to cap the rev share amount, just like there's a salary cap in other sports. In no pro league, in no profession, and certainly not coming to college sports, will you ever be able to cap the outside deals with private businesses. Okay. Again, it's not a problem to be solved. It's, hey, maybe there are more big money businesses over here. Maybe there are more big money boosters over here. It's something that Nebraska is always going to be fighting against, which doesn't feel good, but it's the reality of the situation. Plenty more text to get to. We'll go to break. We'll keep this conversation rolling throughout the course of hour one. He's Nick Wyman. I'm Austin Norman. This is Old School, brought to you by Graham Tire Company.
You're listening to Old School with Jay Foreman and Austin Orman. Download the mobile app and listen wherever you are on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Coppell Chevrolet, GMC, and Chevrolet. And GMC Truck Month is here. Absolutely huge discounts and 2.9% for 72 months. I also just wanted to share a little bit more about the Coppell family. They've been serving the Omaha and Lincoln and surrounding communities for over 50 years with great customer service and small town charm. That's always been our motto, and we absolutely will not be undersold. It truly is confident buying and confident driving. So come on in, meet the team, check us out at Coppell or at CoppellCars.com. All deals with approved credit.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills Global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more. Sandhills Global is growing right here in Lincoln. With our expanding campus and continued growth, we're hiring across a wide range of careers, from interns to experienced professionals. Join the team at Sandhills Global and build your career with competitive pay, great benefits, and real opportunities to grow. Visit sandhills.jobs to view openings and apply today. That's sandhills.jobs.
When something breaks, you want someone you can trust to fix it right. Empire Repair is now open in Waverly and ready to serve our community with reliable auto repair and maintenance. From routine service to bigger repairs, our team is here to keep you on the road. Stop by Empire Repair in Waverly or call 402-786-2224 to schedule your service today. Empire Repair, proud to serve Waverly.
At Schwezo Construction, safety isn't just a policy, it's a promise. Build with us. Work safe, go home proud. We're hiring skilled craftsmen, laborers, concrete workers, and steel erectors who value quality work and a team that has your back, on and off the job site. If you're ready to be part of a company where your safety and success come first, visit Schwezo.com. That's SCHWISOW.com and apply today. Schwezo Construction, 40 years strong and still building the future.
Fans, Dynasty Combat Sports returns to the Pinnacle Bank Arena on Friday, May 15th for an action-packed night of cage fights. In the main event, UFC veteran Derek Minner makes his bare-knuckle MMA debut against Eduardo Peralta. In the co-main event, undefeated bare-knuckle boxer Nate Morrow faces Missouri's Ira Lukowski, plus Lincoln favorites Sean Lindgren, Jeremy Small, Victor Badola, and Camden Golden. All part of a stacked 16-fight lineup. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster or the arena box office. Fight cards subject to change.
Are you looking for a fresh new hangout spot? Let me tell you about Liquid Assets Sports Bar, where Mondays mean new weekly drink and food features. With 23 taps, a full lineup of cans and bottles, and 40 TVs blasting every sports package out there, you'll never worry about missing a play. Savor high-end spirits at their stylish top-shelf bar, enjoy a healthy menu, family-friendly atmosphere, and catch all of your favorite teams every day. Doors open daily at 11 a.m. Liquid Assets Sports Bar, located at 2755 Jamie Lane in South Lincoln.
Right now in Lincoln, neighbors are facing hunger and homelessness, and they need our help. Your donation to Matt Talbot Kitchen and Outreach for Give to Lincoln Day helps provide nutritious meals, safe shelter, and life-changing support. Your gift goes even further thanks to matching funds from the Lincoln Community Foundation. Working together, we can make our community stronger by ensuring that everyone has access to nutritious food and a safe place to sleep at night. Give to Matt Talbot today or anytime through May 28th at givetolincoln.com.
In every office, there's two types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday. You lost Wednesday. You're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe. Back to Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back in. It's Old School. Austin Orman, Nick Wyman with you. And by with you, I mean you're with us. 402-464-5685. Lots of good thoughts, lots of good ideas on our Sartor Heyman Jewelers text line. Hour 1 of Old School brought to you, as always, by Heartland of Nebraska Windows. They're based out of Hallam, Nebraska. They offer free estimates, full window replacements, all vinyl triple pane windows, and lifetime warranties on everything while keeping their prices affordable. Heartland of Nebraska Windows is locally and family-owned with their own team of installers. You can give them a call today for more info at 402-430-3852. You can also visit them online at heartlandofnebraskawindows.com. All right, let's keep things rolling on this discussion. Financials, revenue sharing, NIL with Nebraska football. 1809 says, only things fans can do about this is if you don't like the pay to play, then stop watching and supporting college athletics. It's not pay to play anymore. 1809. It's legal. It's allowed. It used to be pay for play when SEC teams were, sliding the McDonald's bags of cash across the table. Guess what? They're being told not just they get to pay, but they have to pay student athletes in a lot of cases, especially in the major sports like football and basketball. And it's more free agency than anything at this point. Take the highest offer that's the best fit for you. So no, it's not pay to play. And I don't think not watching and supporting is going to happen anytime.
If that's the case, pay to play, then what was Nebraska basketball this last year? Nebraska basketball had a team where a bunch of misfits, you say. I mean, you bring in Marcus Lawrence came back. Mm-hmm. This is not just a college football discussion. This is a college athletics discussion. You bring in Price Sanford at a time where, at the time he was like, oh, I like to fit. We'll see what he's got. And now he's, Nebraska sensation. You can't go around town without being recognized. I saw him at the Husker baseball game, lining up, taking photos with him and everything like that. And it's not, Nebraska basketball wasn't a pay to play team. I think they were had some nice pieces put together to see what they have for the roster, and everything clicked. You hit all the boxes. Nebraska missed on 1 or 2 of those boxes potentially. Who knows what Nebraska basketball would have been. But if that's the case, Nebraska basketball, I don't think they were paid to win. Indiana as well. Like Fernando Mendoza, he wasn't what he was at Cal. They just took a risk on a guy, took him in. You saw the potential, what he's able to do, put guys around him. That's what they're doing. That's what they're hoping to do with Josh Hoover this next year from coming from TCU. We saw the flashes, what he was able to do with the Horned Frogs, bringing him in now. And Kurt Cincinnati's hoping to run it back with that group he has there, led by him as a quarterback. We see time and time again, NIL, some quarterbacks come in and they're not great. They're not great. And you're just hoping to check all the boxes and hit it together. So it's not just whoever spends the most money is going to end up hosting the trophy at the end of the year. Does it help? Yes. You have less room for error, but at the end of the day, you still have to coach, you still have to develop, and you still have to play the games.
Thomas and Lincoln says, so now the rules aren't in favor of the game. It's in favor of who can make money. Again, to a point. But that's where I think I would have 2 thoughts. Number one is I would like to see where Nebraska's financial situation would stand if Nebraska was winning 10 games consistently.
Yes.
Because, again, by my rough math, let's say Nebraska's bringing in about $6.5 million in some of that outside money to help fund the roster. Would that double if Nebraska started winning 10 games? Would it triple if Nebraska started winning 10 games to get Nebraska over the hump? I don't know, and we don't know because we haven't necessarily seen it yet. And not that money's going to be the only thing that gets Nebraska over the hump. Better coaching, better talent, better development, all that will certainly play in. But it's just a fact of life right now that Nebraska is that far behind, and I'm not sure what Nebraska can do to catch up. 8893 says, I miss the old days when it was for the top-notch education and a shot at the title. Yes, indeed, 8893, which is why I'm such a fan of big-time mid-major basketball. To me, it's kind of the purest of what we say we want college sports to be. Let's get to this from 5677. Nebraska spends too much money on the retention of players that help Nebraska go 7-5. Okay, well, what if that's all Nebraska can afford? Is Nebraska in a spot that it can do the Texas Tech model? Can Nebraska go all in on 1 or 2, maybe 3 5 stars at key positions, quarterback, edge rusher, and, position du jour, And then do you trust Nebraska to develop and get the best out of the rest of the 3-stars that they recruit? I don't right now, And so in that case, you've seen this in college basketball, which is obviously a different sport than college football. Roster retention does matter to a point. What are you retaining? What types of players, what caliber of player are you retaining? That absolutely matters as well. And so I can see the argument for Nebraska, at least, to say, hey, we're going to pay to keep the band together. We know these players. We know what they're about. We think we know how to get more out of them. And our top end budget isn't at the same level as, apparently 24 other programs, at least. If Nebraska's 29 million ranks at 25th to 30th, that's, upper 75th percentile in college football, give or take. It's not, top quarter at this point. So there's a bunch of teams ahead of you. So I can understand why Nebraska's made the decisions that it has to retain the talent that it has. But at some point, you either need to start getting more out of that talent or get better at identifying what talent really is in this day and age.
And like you said, they are spending X amount of dollars. They're 25th, 30th range, like I said, the upper 75 percentile. However, the wins on the field haven't been coming despite that. Like you're paying as a top 25 team. However, you are not scratching that surface. And like you said, it'd be interesting to see if Nebraska was able to put together double-digit win seasons. Where would that $6 million become 12? Would it become 15? What would it take to potentially get more? And you have to, obviously, like you said, you have to still focus on certain positional alignments and where you want to put your eggs in a basket. Like you want to go all in for a year, like a Texas Tech model where they went all in on the roster, get to the playoff, but come up short. They were quarterback away, couldn't score in that playoff game. And if, I don't know, you won't know until, like, you and I and everybody else will not know until Nebraska football puts together wins on the field. Well, if they're going 7-5, they'll continue to tread that $6 million. If they maybe go 9-3, 10-2, potentially, maybe that number grows. I don't know. We don't know how it works and how it fully will transpire because you still have to win on those Saturdays in the fall at the end of the day.
A Drunk Trough guy says, I wonder if they could do some sort of retention bonus, as in if you start and finish your 4-year degree at the school, either the school or one of the sponsors will give you X amount of the bonus. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing against that necessarily. But again, what kind of players are you offering that deal to? And are you sure that those are the ones that will be sticking around? And then is that bonus big enough to keep them around for the entire payoff, right? And that's just the question that I think would have to be answered by every prospect or player in their own way. Back to our Starter Heyman Jewelers text line. Mean Joe Green. Is Nebraska at a point within NIL where it needs to decide if it wants to be good at football or another sport? I understand that football pays for it all, but Nebraska doesn't seem to be getting any better at that. I understand the question, Mean Joe Green. I know what it's motivated by and where it's coming from, but my answer has to be no. You don't need to be a quote-unquote one-sport school anymore. Look at Alabama, quintessential football school of the 2010s. What did Alabama do? Went out and invested in basketball to try to, double up on the money. You look at Auburn, hasn't been great in football, but that's still probably a football first school. Went out and invested in basketball. You look at, maybe like LSU went back through all that trouble to go get Will Wade to try to be good at both of them. Georgia is getting better at basketball. NCAA tournament team this year, kind of fringy team the last couple of years. Look at Michigan. Won a football title 2 years ago, won a basketball title this year. Ohio State hasn't really invested in basketball, but there's a lot of proud tradition in that program as well on top of football. Michigan State has some good recent football history, but still a basketball school. They're not settling to be just okay at football because basketball is their thing. Iowa football's been Iowa football. Iowa basketball's been Iowa basketball. Competent at both. Same kind of thing for Wisconsin basketball over the years. There is no reason you have to go all in on one sport. If you just can't get the hires right, and let's say that you're Kansas, with a rich basketball tradition and a pop-up couple of football years, so be it. But what did Kansas do? Went out and hired a really good, low to mid-major coach in Lance Leipold and brought him down there. Kansas State, football school, basketball school, I don't know. But they've been at the top of the Big 12 in football a couple of years and made an Elite 8 run not that long ago. There is no reason, regardless of the era, that you need to be a one-sport school. Well, you do not need to focus your resources on one. The success of one does not necessarily detract from the other. There shouldn't be such a thing as a football school. Oh, all our resources go to this program because that's all we care about. bullcrap excuse.
Well, yeah, and then you even look at like a Tennessee. Tennessee's really good Tennessee's really good at softball. Their basketball program's been
Football's been fringy.
as well. You go down the
Made
line.
The playoff.
They've been solid across the board. Baseball's usually really good. They obviously lost their manager to the major leagues, which was
doesn't happen.
Unprecedented at the time. And their team, like I like how you mentioned Auburn, Alabama softball. Alabama softball is really good this year. Oklahoma, another one. They've been that's a football driven school. Like it is, but
they've been decent at basketball.
Porter Moser's still there. They've had, obviously softball. They are the cream of the crop the past 10 years in softball.
Baseball's popped up.
They've been there. Even just go down the line. We can go through all the conferences and probably find a team where it's like, yes, I think of football like Texas. I think football, that's a different school, obviously, with Texas. Texas it's Texas. They're the Longhorns.
Right. But Texas and Texas A&M are that way. Texas Tech has been fine at baseball, been really good at basketball, is investing in football again all of a sudden.
I'm trying
Baylor's a basketball school.
Florida.
But had to pop up in football. Florida,
struggling at football. They're trying to find their way kind of back. They had a couple of solid years there and then and there, but
baseball, football, basketball, volleyball are all generally solid.
Always good. Always good. Track, they have some good teams across the board. And like, you can't just, I don't know. I don't like the saying like, oh, you should be at this school. You should be at that school. You're in everything school. You have the programs. None should be, regardless of what it is. I mean, even look at wrestling. Iowa wrestling's been really good. Nebraska wrestling's been really good over the years, regardless of what they're bringing in and whatnot. Penn State wrestling's been the cream of the crop there. Penn State's another school. They're having a huge change at football. Football school, Beaver Stadium. The obviously the night games there, the whiteouts. You think of that. They're obviously struggling with basketball. But they've had some of those years, flash in the pan years, baseball as well.
Yeah, Pat Chambers before Pat Chambers a little bit too hard.
Tony Carr, remember Tony Carr?
Jalen Pickett.
Very fun. They had some fun players. So, yes, football school be football school, but those other schools like a Tennessee, like a Florida and Oklahoma, etc., they win in other things other than football.
Mean Joe Green says, you guys are hitting on my point. Nebraska is virtually a top-tier team in every sport except for football. The way I interpreted your question, Mean Joe Green, leads me to believe we're having two different conversations, because what you asked was, does Nebraska need to decide if it wants to be good at football or another sport? No, Nebraska does not need to decide if it wants to be good at football or, any other sport or any other sports, plural. There's no reason outside of football being in its own way, football not maximizing its talent, football not maximizing its resources, that program is where it's at. These other programs aren't good because football's bad. Football's not bad because these other programs are good. In fact, I would argue a rising tide ought to lift all boats in that athletic department, but the biggest tide should be football, just because of the raw dollars and cents and attention that program can bring. It's a lot of credit to these other programs that have flown under the radar in a lot of ways for so long that they've been able to be successful in these other sports. That, football, for as much oxygen as it sucked out of the room into the conversations, on programs like this and in print, that these other programs found ways to find their niche, to be successful in their own sport. In volleyball's case, to become the titan of the industry, not just a college standard setter, but a worldwide standard setter for the game of volleyball in so many ways. For as good as Nebraska volleyball's been too, don't forget, they really yanked that mantle out of the hands of Stanford and Penn State. It's probably not going to last forever, football's failures or volleyball's ultimate successes or whatever for these other sports. Your run doesn't last forever. Can you maximize it while you're in the good times? Can you minimize when you're in the down times? That's where Nebraska football's really fallen short.
And money, you put it wherever you want. College football, NCAA football is always going to be number one. It's just how it is. They play 12 games during the year, regular season, everywhere you go, whether it be Ohio State, whether it be Michigan, whether it be Nebraska. A lot of money is going to come through college football just because of how big of a juggernaut it is and how big it is compared to the other sports. And that's just how it is. It always will be that way. Obviously, some schools, like we mentioned, like I don't know, like the non-power schools will obviously, like a Coastal Carolina, they have had some solid football schools, primarily a baseball school. But I still would bet football is somehow still a huge part of what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's all it's a collaboration of the athletic department, because when you talk about an athletic director and people working alongside him, athletic director gets linked to football a lot. However, it's not a football director. You're an athletic director. You're a director for an entire program as a whole across your entire university, whether it be rifle, bowling, football, etc. your job is to manage all of that, not just football. So I find that interesting, and I see where Mean Joe Green, hopefully it's not the former Steeler, but
imagine if it is.
But I get where you're coming from, but Nebraska's not going to be a school where they're going to go, sorry, football, we're going to pass over the Fred Hoiberg. Realistically, that shouldn't be how it works. As a person to person, I don't think that's a conversation that you can really have just naturally.
Yeah.
I think this is how it's going to go. And football obviously is the driving force with ticket sales, 90,000 fans there. That's just how it's going to be.
Yeah. And again, I think that another way to view this lens, it's not perfect by any means, but if Ohio State, Texas, Oregon, Alabama, Georgia, whatever are the Dodgers, that means the Royals are going to end up being best case scenario, the Blue Jays, maybe the Rays. I don't know. I don't think Nebraska is ever going to be so small market shoestring that it turns into college football's equivalent of Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
But you think about the Blue Jays being Canada's one MLB team, the crown jewel right there, have some history. What it's going to take is savvy team building and savvy team running, where no, you might not ever spend as much as these teams. Maybe when Nebraska gets to spending $50 million on a roster, Ohio State's up to 150. I don't know, but the numbers are probably only going to continue to grow. They're not probably going to shrink anytime soon, which, by the way, is a function of the House agreement and teams front loading all these deals before the House settlement came down. That's another story for another time. But there's no reason savvy team building, good coaching, good development can't make Nebraska more competitive than it's been, even if it doesn't get Nebraska to the mountaintop until all the stars align in one lucky run. So,
and like we said, it comes back to identity and development of your players. Some of those guys, those three or four stars come in, you take the most out of you can with the 3 stars. Sometimes, recruiting doesn't define you. You're a 3-star and you come in and make some plays, make some noise, makes a big difference in the end, because you can win the recruiting class battle. You can win the recruiting class. You can win the transfer portal. You can win the offseason. Doesn't matter unless you're winning on Saturdays and have a true identity in the end.
Westy says, I wonder how that World Series went. Went 7 games. Toronto had every chance to ice that series. Toronto was up 3-2.
A lot of people didn't give them a chance either. A lot of people are like, the Dodgers. And this is a Blue Jays team who was in on the big dog in Shohei Ohtani in free agency, which in college football, you see that time and time again. You get the big recruits and sometimes they flip.
Yeah.
They still maximize. The Blue Jays did not let the Shohei Ohtani go into the Dodgers, not taking that plane to Toronto at the end of the day to find them and say, we're just going to sit behind the Red Sox, the Yankees, and the Rays in our division. They won the division. They won the American League. And they pushed the giants of the National League and baseball as a whole to the brink.
Ted, you have a great question on our Starter Heyman Jewelers text line. We'll wrap up hour 1 with that.
Watch Old School live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Graham Tire presents life's greatest adventures.
Okay, take the worm, put it on the hook. Now bring your pole back and throw it forward. And just let the fish come to you.
I got a bite! It's a big one, Dad! Great road trips start with great service. Graham Tire, your tire store next door, with 5 convenient Lincoln locations, getting you to the places that matter most.
Grandma and Grandpa, Mom and Dad, then the kids, and now the grandkids. Judson Irrigation has provided lawn sprinkler system design, installation, repair, and service to 4 generations. They're just like members of the family. Loyalty, trust, service. It's what you deserve and expect from Judson Irrigation.
Keep summer green. Call Judson Irrigation 402-420-6277 or judsonirrigation.com.
Does someone in your household avoid phone calls because they can't hear clearly, or do they have difficulty speaking on the phone? Nebraska offers a solution. The Nebraska Specialized Telecommunications Equipment Program, or NSTEP, provides financial assistance for specialized devices like amplified phones, captioned telephones, smartphones with Bluetooth pairing to hearing aids, and speech-generating devices. If you're a Nebraska resident with a certified hearing or speech disability, you may qualify. It's not income-based, and once approved, you own the equipment. Learn more or apply at psc.nebraska.gov or call 1-800-526-0017.
Do you ever feel okay in your current job and profession, but wonder if there's a better company that can offer more? Vision Mechanical is now hiring for journeyman plumbers and HVAC service technicians. Vision Mechanical offers top-of-the-industry wages, 100% paid health, disability, and life insurance, 401k with employee match, and paid holidays and vacation. Vision Mechanical believes in craftsmanship, teamwork, and building a better future one project at a time. Apply today or learn more at visionmechanical.net or email Ron at vmech.net.
At Schweezel Construction, safety isn't just a policy, it's a promise. Build with us. Work safe, go home proud. We're hiring skilled craftsmen, laborers, concrete workers, and steel erectors who value quality work and a team that has your back on and off the job site. If you're ready to be part of a company where your safety and success come first, visit schweezo.com. That's schwisow.com and apply today. Schweezo Construction, 40 years strong and still building the future.
Are you looking for a fresh new hangout spot? Let me tell you about Liquid Assets Sports Bar, where Mondays mean new weekly drink and food features. With 23 taps, a full lineup of cans and bottles, and 40 TVs blasting every sports package out there, you'll never worry about missing a play. Savor high-end spirits at their stylish top-shelf bar, enjoy a healthy menu, family-friendly atmosphere, and catch all of your favorite teams every day. Doors open daily at 11 a.m. Liquid Assets Sports Bar, located at 2755 Jamie Lane in South Lincoln.
Right now in Lincoln, neighbors are facing hunger and homelessness, and they need our help. Your donation to Matt Talbot Kitchen and Outreach for Give to Lincoln Day helps provide nutritious meals, safe shelter, and life-changing support. Your gift goes even further thanks to matching funds from the Lincoln Community Foundation. Working together, we can make our community stronger by ensuring that everyone has access to nutritious food and a safe place to sleep at night. Give to Matt Talbot today or anytime through May 28th at givetolincoln.com.
Big value and big flavor meet at Wings and Rings thanks to the all-new Delicious Duo Combo. This is the one you've been waiting for. Get one half-sized appetizer and 2 entrees with a side for only $19.99. Bring a friend for the best deal in town on any day of the week, during game time, or whenever the heck you want. Their made-to-order wings and chicken sandwiches are waiting for you at their 68th and O and 40th and Old Cheney locations. Stop by Wings and Rings and celebrate every day with the best meal deal in town.
Nebco is hiring CDL drivers for Ready Mixed Concrete in Lincoln and Palmyra. Ready Mixed offers great pay, medical and retirement benefits, paid time off, and they cover the cost of CDL training. Apply with Ready Mixed Concrete today to be eligible for a $2,500 hiring bonus. From Nebco's beginning in 1908, it's the employees that have formed the company's solid foundation. Start your career today with Ready Mixed Concrete. Visit nebcoinc.com. That's NEBCOINC.com.
Back to Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back in. It is Old School, hour 1 of the show, brought to you by Heartland of Nebraska Windows. You can see the information scrolling on stream down below us. You can give them a call, 402-430-3852, or visit them online at heartlandofnebraskawindows.com to learn more about how you can have your house properly insulated, have a beautiful view, and more. Austin Orman, Nick Wyman with you here. We're headed to our Starter Heyman Jewelers text line. Ted wants to know, is there going to be live coverage of state baseball again this year? Ted?
Good question.
Yes, there is. I got the schedule right here. Holding it up. Okay, so Friday is when the state tournaments officially kick off. We will be at Werner Park. So we'll have a 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. games on Friday and Saturday. 9 a.m. on Friday is 1 versus 8 in Class A. 12 is a 4 versus 5 in Class A. Bottom half of the bracket being played at Tal Anderson Field with the Omaha Storm Chasers still in town through the weekend. But then come Monday, it is wall-to-wall state baseball Monday, Tuesday, and potentially Wednesday as well. Monday we'll have games at 10, 1, 4, and 7. Same thing then on Tuesday. Wednesday we'll have a couple of Class A games on either half of the bracket. Could have 2 games, could have 3 games, could have 4 games, depending on how many of those, if necessary, games are chosen. And then on Friday, we'll have all 3 state championships to bring you. Class C at noon, Class B at 3:30, and Class A at 7. So, yeah, starting this Friday, 9 a.m., myself, Nick Sainert on the call for those games. Tristan Gomez will also be along for the ride, calling some baseball for us here on the ticket. And then 49-79 comments on the last thing we talked about there, Nick. Says, I know times have changed, but isn't that what's always been missing since Tom Osborne, the savvy team building? Yeah, I completely think that's fair, and that's what I said. I think with Bach during one-on-one is that's the mark of the greatest and the best programs, the ones that are flexible, that are able to adapt era by era. You give teams credit for being as successful as they were, dominating the way they did in the era that they played. But that's where, if you look at, Georgia being good pre-NIL, Georgia being good post-NIL, Ohio State being good pre-NIL, Ohio State being good post-NIL, Oregon, good pre, good post. Some of the better flagship programs in the sport right now have been good because they're well-run, competent organizations. The ones that were only good in revenue sharing, are catching up now. The ones that were only good when it was legal under the table are falling behind a little bit now. And yes, there's more to it than that. There are rule changes on the field. There are changes in recruiting rules that absolutely, play in and factor in. But the best organizations are able to pivot because they have the resources in terms of money, but also in terms of personnel and flexibility to make sure that their success isn't just contained to one era, and they're not just a pure product of their environment, but they can be reactive and reflexive to whatever the rules now allow.
You mentioned Ohio State. They've been good for 30 some years now. They've taken their lumps. Yes, there was a year with obviously Jim Tressel. All that happens, and then they obviously bring in Urban Meyer, spend the money on that, continue to win at that success. Ryan Day takes over, continue to win throughout. They've had different names, different players, and they've been able to go from college, and those players make a career out of playing football as well. So, yeah, that's a big thing. But also state baseball, 9 o'clock in the morning, get your coffee ready. You'll have a full slate. Those Wednesday games, if necessary, too, will be very fun because you have potentially for a 4-game slate on the winner go-home days for those ones as well. And then Friday, the Championship Friday, Class C, B, and A across the board. Should be a fun time not only for us, but also for the viewers and all those attending the state tournament.
All coming your way, 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Nick, appreciate you being here.
No problem. Tagging in Harrison.
Here we go. Hour 2 of Old School on the other side.
You're listening to Old School with Jay Foreman and Austin Orman. Download the mobile app and listen wherever you are on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Sandhills Global is growing right here in Lincoln. With our expanding campus and continued growth, we're hiring across a wide range of careers, from interns to experienced professionals. Join the team at Sandhills Global and build your career with competitive pay, great benefits, and real opportunities to grow. Visit sandhills.jobs to view openings and apply today. That's sandhills.jobs.
At Schwezo Construction, safety isn't just a policy, it's a promise. Build with us. Work safe, go home proud. We're hiring skilled craftsmen, laborers, concrete workers, and steel erectors who value quality work and a team that has your back, on and off the job site. If you're ready to be part of a company where your safety and success come first, visit Schwezo.com. That's SCHWISOW.com and apply today. Schwezo Construction, 40 years strong and still building the future.
Do you ever feel okay in your current job and profession, but wonder if there's a better company that can offer more? Vision Mechanical is now hiring for journeyman plumbers and HVAC service technicians. Vision Mechanical offers top-of-the-industry wages, 100% paid health, disability, and life insurance, 401k with employee match, and paid holidays and vacation. Vision Mechanical believes in craftsmanship, teamwork, and building a better future one project at a time. Apply today or learn more at visionmechanical.net or email Ron at vmech.net.
At Cedars, we're here to make sure the kids have the safety and stability that every child deserves, where they're protected and where they feel safe. You make this possible. Today, more than ever, we need your support to be here for kids who have nowhere else to call home. Now through May 28th, make a big impact through Give to Lincoln. Give to Cedars now at givetolincoln.com.
Does someone in your household avoid phone calls because they can't hear clearly, or do they have difficulty speaking on the phone? Nebraska offers a solution. The Nebraska Specialized Telecommunications Equipment Program, or NSTEP, provides financial assistance for specialized devices like amplified phones, captioned telephones, smartphones with Bluetooth pairing to hearing aids, and speech-generating devices. If you're a Nebraska resident with a certified hearing or speech disability, you may qualify. It's not income-based, and once approved, you own the equipment. Learn more or apply at psc.nebraska.gov or call 1-800-526-0017.
Coming at you live from the heart of downtown Lincoln, this is Old School with Foreman and Orman. Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman.
Here's Troy Detmer dropping straight back in the pocket. Rifles a pass. It was tipped. It's picked off by Foreman. He's at the 15, 10, 5. He'll score! Foreman got it, and it's touchdown Huskers.
Black shirts, answer the call one more time.
And Austin Orman. Old School with Foreman and Orman is sponsored by Graham Tire Company of Lincoln, your tire store next door with 4 Lincoln locations. Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
That it is. Welcome into hour 2 of the show. Lasted all first hour on Nebraska football and money. And hey, if you guys are still interested in talking about it, we are more than happy to jump right into that. Otherwise, we will turn the page a little bit to Nebraska men's basketball and beyond. And with me for hour 2, Harrison Arns. Welcome in, my friend.
You bet. You're good to be here again on another Old School. So we got another 2 hours. Let's listen a little bit of you and Nick Wyman coming in here, but I'm ready to go on a nice Tuesday, and we'll get rolling.
We will talk NBA draft lottery. Your Bulls, they're winners to some degree.
I'll take 4.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty good considering what the lottery odds are now today. Like if you can get in that range,
yeah.
You're
in
pretty
blue chip
happy.
range.
Yeah. Now we've whiffed pretty hard on anytime we've had a number 4 overall pick, but this year with this class, you feel pretty good getting in that spot. There's going to be a good target for you still.
There ought to be, and we will talk more about that coming up in hour 2 of the show. Did want to get to some Nebraska men's basketball news on the Big Ten Network earlier today. We learned the conference opponents and where Nebraska men's basketball will be playing them. Of course, we know who the teams are, but where Nebraska is going to play them is certainly intriguing. We'll start with the double plays, Harrison. Nebraska will get Iowa twice. No duh. Nebraska will get Michigan State twice. Pretty fun. And also Penn State, both at home in Lincoln and on the road in State College. The Iowa one makes sense. Geographic reasons, the way that 3-game season series went last year. Michigan State is not an uncommon double play for Nebraska. The Hoiberg-Izzo connection. Those two teams have had some pretty good battles over the years. And then Penn State. Okay, whatever. You take it.
Yeah, I mean, the nothing really sticks out to me. That's not overly surprising in there, and I'm sure we'll talk about. But it is interesting looking at that schedule. Is we'll get a good opportunity of a lot of teams that played in that tournament and in this last year's tournament. So it looks like a pretty decent, tough schedule right off the rip. And use tough a little bit of grain of salt. We'll see how these rosters actually look once they start playing. But don't hate it. Don't hate it at all. Not surprised either.
Yeah, no, not really all that surprised. We'll move into the home schedule for Nebraska. So obviously Iowa, Michigan State, and Penn State, like we mentioned. Nebraska gets a completely revamped Indiana team at home this year. Nebraska also gets Minnesota at home only, Ohio State in Lincoln only, Rutgers. And then after making the LA trip last year, Nebraska gets UCLA and USC both at home only. The big one, though, Harrison, is Nebraska welcomes defending champion Michigan to Lincoln. Nebraska's only beat Michigan twice in school history, once in Lincoln, or at least in the Big Ten era, once in Lincoln there in 2017-18. And then in Fred Hoiberg's first tournament year, 23-24, they went and beat the final Juwan Howard team up at the Chrysler Center. And from the Nebraska release on this, Michigan is the first defending national champion to visit Pinnacle Bank Arena since it opened. And the matchup will be the first time Nebraska has hosted a reigning champion since Kansas in 2009.
Well, that actually about right. I was just about to ask, I was like, who'd be the other one that we have hosted? And Kansas sounds about right. That's a great opportunity for us at the Vault. And I'm kind of surprised that's the first time we've actually had the defending champ. But when you look at the Big Ten basketball, I guess it makes sense that some of these teams are around. Michigan on an absolute heater. That's good buzz. I mean, that's a great opportunity. You hope to get the best of the best, and especially for how good Nebraska basketball plays at the Vault. Those are the type of teams that I'm okay entering into our dome. Is we usually have some pretty good success there. We've seen it with good teams like when we beat Zach Edey and Purdue down here at the Vault. That's the type of opponent that you're hoping to invite in the doors at the Vault because, we almost beat them actually last year playing on the road, but even still, I really like our chances a lot more at home.
Yeah, so that game against Kansas ended up being a 60-62 win for the Jayhawks.
That was 2009 Kansas?
Yes, after they beat the Derrick Rose team in Memphis in the 2008 national championship game. Then that next year, the 2008-2009 season, Nebraska led that game by 5 at the break, 34-29, then got outscored 39-28 in the second half to lose it. Your starters for that Kansas team, Sharon Collins, Brady Morningstar, Tyshawn Taylor, Cole Aldridge, and Marcus Morris.
That's fantastic. Marcus Morris is all the way back on that roster.
He was. And the 5 guys that came in off the bench for Kansas, Mario Little, Tyrell Reed, Markeith Morris, Travis Relaford, and Quintrell Thomas.
Who's our starting 5?
Okay, Nebraska's starting 5. Nebraska going into the game was 12-6, by the way, got dropped to 12-7 with the loss. Steve Harley, Cookie Miller, Ade Daganduro, Sek Henry, and Chris Ballham.
I can't put a face on Chris.
Got nothing on that
Cookie
one.
Miller's really the only one that is really sticking out to me of guys that I can remember.
Your bench. Nebraska went 4 bench guys deep. Ryan Anderson went 0-6 shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Valander, Cole Salomon, and Brandon Richardson.
Shout out to that's a good trivia question right there. That 09 roster.
Yeah, so that is the last time Nebraska hosted a defending champion. So Michigan will be the first team to have won a title and then visit Pinnacle Bank Arena. Of course, Nebraska put a big scare into the Wolverines. One of the first teams really to do that, and that was down 2 players. So again, your home slate for Nebraska alphabetically: Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Michigan State, Minnesota, Ohio State, Penn State, Rutgers, UCLA, and USC. That does leave the rest of the conference on the road, but just to run down those names, Nebraska will travel to Illinois, home of the first real, marquee statement victory for Nebraska this year with the road win at Illinois. Nebraska will go to Iowa. They'll head to College Park to take on Maryland. Michigan State, they'll go to Evanston again to take on Northwestern, who was a double play last season. They'll do the Pacific Northwest road swing with Oregon and Washington. Nebraska will also head then to Penn State, Purdue, and Wisconsin. No easy roads necessarily in the Big Ten. Where these games fall, just as important, or where in the schedule they fall, is just as important as where they're being played. But that's a decent looking home slate and, a pretty normal looking Big Ten road slate.
Yeah, no, I mean, the thing that sticks out on the schedule, I'd have to count how many of those opponents were actually made it to the tournament. And then Minnesota, that was a college basketball crown team, weren't they?
Minnesota.
I don't think they made the tournament. I think
they missed out on the NCAA tournament. So Indiana missed, Iowa made, Michigan made, Michigan State made, Ohio State made, UCLA made it, Illinois made it, and Purdue made it, and Wisconsin made it.
Okay, so that's pretty good.
NCAA tournament
we're
teams
looking
from
at 8
last year.
NCAA tournament teams. Now, we'll obviously see what they look like. I mean, that's a pretty good conference schedule if you're looking to go get some good wins, and obviously you get to host Michigan at home. The way that works out, I like our home matchups a lot, and I'll take playing, Oregon on the road. And what was the other one? Washington's on the road?
Yep.
That West Coast trip? Yeah, I'll take those matches right there. I think
which Nebraska's crown team swept that road trip 2 years ago.
Yeah. So I'll take that lineup for that. We'll see when all these games come out, but I feel pretty good about that.
The games that really stand out, obviously Michigan at home. I think Indiana at home in Lincoln is going to end up being a pretty fun matchup. And then Michigan State, obviously that game always gets circled. Going to Illinois, Nebraska's played okay there at times, but not necessarily a dream location to have to visit without a return trip from them. Going to Breslin and Michigan State has been terrible, but maybe the worst thing for Nebraska has been going to Mackey Arena. That was a good Purdue team last year, not maybe the preseason number 1 elite team that they were projected to be going into the year. But man, it just makes me wonder what the trip to Mackey Arena looks like this year. Even the Kohl Center hasn't necessarily been kind to Nebraska when they've gone to play Wisconsin either.
Well, no, and with Purdue, like they just have, I would say probably the toughest venue in all of the Big Ten. So it's a tough.
Ooh, probably.
Well, in terms of the noise, like I've got to sit in Sam
Yeah.
Hoiberg, and I think it's like a metallic ceiling, so you get a lot of that reverb going on. And when things start going south, when you have, last year, like guys like Hoyer that get on a heater, like that place really starts to come down on you. That's always a tough one. It feels like ever since we beat Purdue when they had Zach Edey and Rink Masterly went at him, like we've gotten their full respect. And like it's a team that doesn't ever take us lightly anymore. So I don't know how it's going to look out, other than I'll tell you, Purdue's going to come out there playing. I mean, and obviously it makes sense that we won these 2 tournament games, but even before that, I feel like we earned the respect of Purdue before a lot of these other Big Ten teams. And they come out there and they usually give us a pretty good effort, and it doesn't always work out like last year, especially when they're red hot. So that's probably the most interesting one, and that's a good mark for Nebraska. If you can go get that win and probably the toughest environment, that'd be a great win if they could secure it.
Yeah, Nebraska has not always played Purdue the best. Overall, head-to-head matchups here, trying to sort this alphabetically pretty quickly, scroll down, find Purdue. Nebraska against Purdue all-time, according to Sports Reference, is 7-21. I'm seeing some other places say 7-23. But some of these Fred Hoiberg teams actually were able to limit some of what Purdue was able to do. The late Miles and early Hoiberg teams, even if they didn't win it, they stole maybe a couple games early, but then Purdue really took off before Nebraska did, made its first Final Four in forever, made its national championship where it lost to UConn as well. So really interesting slate for Nebraska. I want to turn the page and look a little bit more at the roster, though, Harrison, because I saw this from a coach that has gone to some of John Calipari's clinics, whatever. And I'm just going to read the tweet, and I think it's interesting. This coach, Mike Jagacki, says, down the stretch of close games, I always think about something John Calipari said in a clinic. He called it streak. The idea was simple. In a key stretch, he'd yell streak, and from that point on, only his 2 best players were allowed to take a shot. He explained it as a way to avoid burning a timeout while still controlling shot attempts. I've never implemented it, but I think about it all the time, especially late in close games when a possession swings to the wrong player. A roll guy tries to create, or a limited shooter rises for a big 3, and you just know it's not going in. Curious if anyone has used something like this and what your experience was. I think that's really interesting to think about in the context of what Nebraska wants to do.
Right.
Because on the one hand, I think that this is really what Nebraska was missing at times. In those key stretches of games, are you able consistently to get the ball to the person you want to take the shot? Whether it's Price Sanford or Rink Mass, I think would probably be the top 2 for Nebraska this last year. Whether it was, I don't know, Bryce Williams and Juwan Gary maybe 2 years ago, and any 2 of the 3, whoever had it going between Tominaga, Mast, and Williams on the first tournament team, because there were so many stretches this last year, especially in Nebraska's tight losses, that I thought, hey, DeMarcus Lawrence, go create, take over off the bounce, hit a couple middies, just put points on the board. Even if it's not what Nebraska, quote unquote, wants to do, sometimes you need the tendency breaker. Sometimes you just need a guy to go get buckets. In Nebraska, I give it a lot of credit for staying true to form. I give Fred Hoiberg a lot of credit for the plays that he called and, wanting to stick with what it was he wanted to do, sticking with the offense. But I do think there are times that Nebraska could have gone outside of that. And there are times that we saw Nebraska benefit from, some role players, quote unquote, making some key plays. You think about the Frager step back against Indiana. Would he be in your top 2 guys that you want taking a shot for Nebraska for this coming season? You think about Buchtengel's 3 early in the Vanderbilt game, or Garcia's 3s early the keyed Nebraska against Iowa. That's not really what this is referring to, but I just worry in a system like Nebraska is where we saw DeMarcus Lawrence never take that step forward consistently in aggression. And people are going to bag on Berke Buchtengel's offensive game, for good reason. The numbers weren't pretty.
Right.
But that's a guy that showed some offensive talent at the FIBA level, right? It's in there somewhere. And I completely understand what Calipari is saying. But he has dudes that can do that. That can just go take over, take tough shots and make tough shots. I think Nebraska could use a little bit more of that. But I also think a lot of that and taking some of that power and agency away from players making the right read and trusting all 5 players on the court to be able to make a play and hit a shot flies in the face of what Nebraska's wanted to be about philosophically.
Yeah, and the biggest point to that is you have to have the personnel. If you want to use the quote unquote, what they call it, streak, where the 2 best players, the only ones allowed to take shots. I don't know if it would fit. Now, I do think there's times where you could go that route and where you see Nebraska, if they're really struggling, and, Stanford doesn't have it going for whatever reason, do you need to have a situation? But then, it's funny you mentioned Jamarcus Lawrence, and I'm not trying to bag on him, but he had opportunities last year where it felt like he could be that steadying weight for Nebraska basketball, and he just maybe wasn't as aggressive as he should have been. So maybe not call it quote unquote streak, but whatever Fred Hoiberg wants to call it, to get him to be more assertive when the teams are really struggling. But you got to be really confident in their ball handling ability, and you got to have a couple guys that aren't going to be turning it over where you're loading a ton of pressure on two players. So if you feel comfortable with two guys that aren't going to turn the ball over and you need a few minutes stretch where they can, that's great. But doesn't really fit the philosophy of what Fred Hoiberg's done on this team. It's a very free-flowing offense. The closest thing we probably saw is early in games we're really trying to feed it just to Rink Mast. I know that's one player, and that didn't always really work well. Wasn't Rink Mast. He had a certain struggle there in the season where his offensive numbers weren't maybe what you expected. But also at times we'd still try to go to him because he was that senior leadership, and we'd start some games with some holes, trying to force it inside, and sometimes it'd work. I don't know if that's necessarily in Nebraska basketball's makeup for what they try to do on offense.
Does it need to be?
To a degree. Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is if you have a good enough player, obviously you can feed them. Last year, who were the two players? Like if you want to do the quote-unquote streak, who are the guys you trust in?
I'll let you answer that first. Who would you go to?
I mean, probably Sanford and Mast.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think what we saw from Nebraska in some of those moments, I think about how Nebraska tried to crawl back in that Indiana game when they got down big on the road. Nebraska put the ball in Sam Hoiberg's hands and said, Sam, just go get to the rim and get us a layup.
Yeah,
when Nebraska was in a bit of a scoring rut, they didn't trust Marcus Lawrence to do it. They didn't ISO Price Sanford at the top of the key. They went 1-4 low and said, Sam, go to work. I don't know if that's the answer I would have given before the year. It didn't happen all the time, but that's what Nebraska chose to do very often, just to see the ball go in the hoop. To me, last year, I think, I keep bringing up the name, but I think Jamarcus Lawrence was an obvious one where he had, I think, the best combination of size and explosiveness and just pure offensive ability to be able to hit a stop and pop three, to be able to hit from the mid-range, to be able to get all the way downhill. And I'm not sure why in those moments he wasn't the go-to guy in that situation. And I'm not trying to doubt Fred Hoiberg and his staff. They see these guys more than anything. They went with Sam Hoiberg in that role for a reason. Worked pretty dang well for Nebraska. But to me, I think there's a lot of benefit to having a guy like Jamarcus Lawrence in that role and be able to do it. I think the easy answers for this coming year are Price Sanford is the best offensive player on the team, potential all Big Ten, first team member for the second year in a row, and potential Big Ten preseason player of the year. But what else is in Price Sanford's bag? Not that he's going to be the ISO breaking down at the top of the key guy, but how can Nebraska more consistently free Price Sanford in those moments where the defense gets tougher and you absolutely need a bucket? I think Frager's probably the second option in a lot of people's minds because of his athleticism that we saw at times. He's got to shore up the handle a little bit. So I think he's an option. Trevin Lenhart is a guy that comes to mind. The transfer from Utah Valley, 36% three-point shooter on decent volume, a whole bunch of assists. And that's where I think the Calipari thing maybe comes to a head a little bit for me, is that Nebraska's not going to land a Darius Acuff. Nebraska's not going to land an Andrew or Aaron Harrison, right? Yeah, I know Nebraska had, Bryce McGowan's type back in the day, but to me, it's not necessarily all about who's taking the shot. And I think Nebraska would think that way too. It's, can you create the best possible shot? Which more often than not, you would like it to be a Sanford. You'd like it to be, dare I say, even like a Sam Orm as he transfers in from Belmont if he's spotted up. But I think late in the shot clock, Trevin Lenhart's going to have a great opportunity to create some stuff for Nebraska, whether it's getting into the paint and finishing, whether it's hitting a pull-up jumper, or whether it's, hey, actually putting some legitimate pressure on the rim to draw defensive attention that leads to a kick out. I think Taj DeGorville is in that boat as well, off the bench. 6'5", toolsy kind of guard. Haven't seen him, create a whole lot for himself on offense, but he did average multiple assists per game last year at San Diego State. Bigger bodied, attacking downhill guard who probably won't be on the court all the time, but if he's on the court in crunch time, I could see him being a guy that gets the ball in some of those moments. We want you to get downhill. If you can go finish at the rim, go do it. but we know you have the passing ability to at least draw defensive attention and create for someone else.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing you're looking for. If you're looking for players, you need someone who can threaten the rim. You know, if they have a step, you're going to have to move defenders to get in his way. Otherwise, he's going to have a good opportunity. And that's why I think Frager really sticks out. And I think that's probably why they went with Sam Hoiberg last year. You know, for as short as he was out there on the court compared to everybody else, he's a pretty good finisher around the trees. And he would be able to at least get downhill and put a lot of pressure. And then you trust him taking care of the ball. I like the idea with Lenhart as well for the same reasons. You need a guy that's going to be able to threaten the rim. I think that's almost a staple if you're going to have the quote unquote streak players. Is it's great if they have a jumper, if they have some good shooting ability, but if it's going to be between him and one other guy, or if you're just putting a ton on his plate, he's got to be able to go downhill and get to the rim, because those are going to be the easiest shots to create, especially in crunch time. You know, if it's late in the game and you got defenders that are maybe in foul trouble, I mean, those are the key guys, because you already got defenses with their hands tied behind their back a little bit. So Frager sticks out big time, Lenhart. And then we'll see with DeGorville. I'll be honest, I don't think he played more than like 25 minutes a game, if I'm correct.
He played about 20 minutes per game.
Okay, 20 minutes. So it'll be interesting, does his role continue to elevate? What does it look like in Fred Hoiberg's offense? And he's certainly got the size and physicality. It's just, we'll see what it looks like when it comes. But I think that's the biggest thing, is when you're looking for takeover guys, the shooting's great, the playmaking's great. Can they take care of the ball? Can they attack the rim? I think those are the two things. And if you can do those things, you can quote unquote run the streak. Yeah,
not to just name every player on the roster here, but I do have to mention the front court guys that Nebraska added as well. I don't think Bowden Capke is going to be the focal piece, not like Rink Mast was. I think he's going to have to hit his open ones. If he can shoot 33, 35% from three on the open ones, that's fine. But I think like Rink Mast, that's not necessarily a guy Nebraska is going to go to consistently in the post for a bucket, which means there are going to be matchups for Damon Wilkinson, the guy, the most recent signee out of South Dakota State, where his forte is back to the basket offense.
Old school center.
Right. And then some rebounding as well. Is that Nebraska's best option? Not all the times. That what Nebraska always wants to do? No, not necessarily. But there will be times that I think Nebraska is going to force feed the ball to Damon Wilkinson in the post for 3 to 5 possessions at a time and just say, hey, go to work. If you can draw a double team and kick it out, great. But if you get single coverage, we're expecting you to convert at the rim and just put a couple points on the board to draw some attention so we can get back to what we really want to do.
Yeah, and he's going to be really interesting, because I think that's one of those guys we've talked about, like Leo Curtis. What can he evolve into? This guy's just going to be down there doing dirty work. It's a guy you can trust to play really simple, back to the basket. And if he's got a small defender, you're going to be looking for him to most often punish them for it. If there's a bad rotation and they got a mismatch, he could be an interesting, maybe kind of what they did with Rink Mast, where if they have a team, maybe they see the matchup and there's not a lot of height. All right, let's just make his sign right away and take advantage of this until they adjust. Maybe they have to start doubling on him. All right, that opens up Sanford, all of the shooters out there. So I think that's
and cutters.
Oh yeah, and cutters, absolutely. Like guys like Frager, DeGorville, like we mentioned, if he can be a really good rim runner for us as well.
Jacobson's been a good cutter.
Oh, great cutter, and he can shoot at moments. He's shown that home game versus Iowa, he was kind of the hero with corner three in that one.
Oklahoma hit a big one.
Yeah, he's even defensively,
it's in him.
He's had some plays. Yeah. I remember he ripping the ball away from Illinois. So we got like I like a lot of the pieces around it, and I think that's the one thing we've been missing. And part of it, Rink Mast with the injury, and also just the way he played center, it was a little bit different. He liked his face-up game from time to time. A lot of hook shots. That when they're on, it was gravy. When they were off, you were kind of, all right, let's just put the shoulder and run him over and see if that works this time.
Right.
I think Wilkinson's going to be a lot more of that. And if you're an old school Husker and you like physicality, I think you'll probably like what this guy has to offer.
We'll take your thoughts on this as well, as always. 402-464-5685. In those clutch moments, who are the two players you want taking the lion's share of the shots for Nebraska men's basketball? We'll keep talking some hoops. Maybe your thoughts on this. If not, we'll start turning our attention to the NBA. Did we witness LeBron James's final NBA game? Get ready for another summer of LeBron. If you don't want to talk about that, give us your thoughts on who you want taking more of the shots for Nebraska men's basketball in crunch time. He's Harrison Arons. I'm Austin Norman. This is Old School, brought to you by Graham Tire Company.
Watch Old School live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Graham Tire presents life's greatest adventures.
Okay, take the worm, put it on the hook. Now bring your pole back and throw it forward. And just let the fish come to you.
I got a bite! In a big one, Dad!
Great road trips start with great service. Graham Tire, your tire store next door, with 5 convenient Lincoln locations, getting you to the places that matter most.
Are you looking for something different for lunch or dinner in Lincoln? Big 8 is now open at 1226 P Street, serving seafood boils and Asian cuisine. Get your hands messy with fresh, flavorful seafood boils, hot, cold, and made to share. Or enjoy classic Chinese and Asian dishes, perfect for lunch, dinner, or a night out with friends and family. Big flavors, generous portions, and a brand new dining experience. Big 8, now open in Lincoln.
If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and benefits like health, dental, and vision. Drivers are guaranteed 40 hours per week, even in the winter months, and are home every night. Start your career today at Gaina Trucking and Excavating. Apply today at gainatrucking.com.
At Planet Fitness, we know how important it is to take care of both your mind and body. That's why now through May 15th, all new members get free massage amenities all month long, so you can reset, recover, and leave feeling stronger than when you came in. Join the club for just $1 down, $15 a month, and get free massage amenities for the month of May. No commitment. Deal ends May 15th. Planet Fitness. We're all strong on this planet. See club for details.
MWR, a local company of Lincoln, is proud to announce they are able to offer their own post-frame building packages in metal to anyone desiring a building, whether you're a contractor or a DIYer. They can install your building as always, and they offer multiple different rib profiles and loads of color options, including the wood grain metal at great competitive prices. You can inquire at mwrbuildingandfence.com or just draw your desired building and submit it in their contact us page, and they'll get back to you. Call MWR today at 402-540-8966.
Sometimes good people make mistakes. When you find yourself in need of an attorney, call Liberty Law Group. The attorneys at Liberty Law Group will defend you in court and protect your freedom to get you the best possible outcome and the justice you deserve. Trust your freedom to Liberty Law Group, the best criminal attorneys in Nebraska and Iowa. Call them today at 877-404-5238. That's 877-404-5238. Or check them out online at libertylawgroup.com.
Things that impair you come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are the shape of beer and liquor bottles. Others look like cigarettes but aren't cigarettes at all. These are the things we know impair us, the things our parents warned us about. What we're not always aware of is our new prescription or the over-the-counter medicine we picked up just for allergies or a bad cold. See, it doesn't just matter how much of a substance you take. If you are impaired, driving is deceptively dangerous. Don't drive impaired. Paid for by the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
When something breaks, you want someone you can trust to fix it right. Empire Repair is now open in Waverly and ready to serve our community with reliable auto repair and maintenance. From routine service to bigger repairs, our team is here to keep you on the road. Stop by Empire Repair in Waverly or call 402-786-2224 to schedule your service today. Empire Repair, proud to serve Waverly.
It's that time of the year, baseball fans. State baseball is back on the air on 93.7 The Ticket. Join Nick Sainert, Tristan Gomez, and me, Austin Orman, for all the action from Werner Park. We'll bring you all the games from Werner, including the opening rounds in Class A and Class B, as well as all 3 state championship games thanks to our great local sponsors. It's state championship baseball all week long on 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com, and streaming worldwide on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and the free Ticket app.
Imagine if the people who work at your bank were neighbors who could help with a home loan.
Congratulations, you're approved.
Or friends who love to shop local.
Have a good one.
At UBT, who you work with matters just as much as what you're working toward.
Hey, thanks for helping.
That's why your money has more than a banker. It has people. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Back to Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket.
Well, welcome back in to Old School. Austin Orman, Harrison Arons with you for the next hour and a half here on Old School, brought to you in part by the good folks at Schwezo Construction, where safety isn't just a policy, it's a promise. Schwezo Construction is hiring skilled craftsmen, laborers, concrete workers, and steel erectors to value quality work and a team that has your back both on and off the job site. Apply today at schwezo.com. That's schwisow.com. 40 years strong in business, Schwezo Construction. They just got done with a blood drive that they ran on Friday. So a big shout out to the people there at Schwezo, doing great work for the community and in the community as always. Harrison, we have one response so far on who Husker fans would want taking the final shots. My dad chimes in and says, for guys that I want getting the ball in crunch time, number 1 is Price and number 2 is Sanford.
Great answer. I mean, that's the first guy. I mean, with everything he put together last year, like, yeah, if I want a guy taking the last shot, he's been pretty clutch. And the thing about Sanford is, I think he falls in a little bit of the Tamanaga, where it's just we think about his 3-ball game all the time. Tamanaga at times had just beautiful cuts to the rim and had a really good way to figure out how to finish around the trees. And Sanford, he's not necessarily the layups, but he'll get in that mid range. And if he's just kind of leaning one way, if he's got enough room, really nice touch there as well. So again, you're talking about that takeover players. I like attacking the rim, but if you can trade that with just some efficient mid-range jumpers, Jamarcus Lawrence had a little bit of that too, which is maybe another reason why I was surprised to take over at times. But Stanford's got that in his bag, and he showed that a lot last year.
Yeah, there's a part of me that's a little bummed that Price Sanford had the hernia injury, obviously for the sake of Nebraska season, but also so that he couldn't go to the NBA draft combine and get some of that intel from teams.
Yeah.
Because I would be really curious to know what NBA teams think about his role. Certainly, he's proven he's capable of more than Iowa let him show in his first 2 years. And I don't even necessarily want to use that as a diss on Iowa, because I can understand where Fran McCaffrey was coming from with some of those other lead guards on the team that, hey, Price, right now what we need out of you is your spot-up shooting, right? Be on the court, knock them down, and your time is coming. Maybe that was always the plan, but maybe that was all Price Sanford was ever going to be at Iowa. Now we'll never know. I wonder if NBA teams are going to view Price Sanford as, just that big kind of wing 3-point shooter that's good for, 12 minutes a game, compete defensively, probably going to get picked on a little bit in the regular season and in the playoffs, but is good enough offensively with the gravity to still threaten teams from beyond the arc and play his way onto the court. Or if there's anything more in the bag for Price Sanford, because again, I don't think that he's a guy that Nebraska is going to say, go get us a bucket from the top of the key as the one in the 1-4 low kind of setup. I wonder how elite a shooter Price Sanford can grow to be at the NBA level. If teams will be running sets to get him open looks, more than 2 or 3 times a game, or how comfortable teams will be with Price Sanford, who's not bad athletically, but clearly not, top of the charts athlete in terms of, pure pop or pure acceleration, in terms of him being a guy that they're comfortable with putting the ball on the floor on the second side. I think Tamanaga is an interesting example, like you said, with the range opening up everything else for him with some drives and some cuts. I also wonder if, there's any Con Knipple in his game where, and again, I don't want to be disrespectful to the year that Con Knipple had, right? Con Knipple proved he was so much more than just a 3-point shooting wing, right? What Con Knipple was able to do in shouldering that offensive burden when Cooper Flagg went down with the ankle injury was way beyond anything Nebraska asked Price Sanford to do. And again, barring a bunch of injuries, Nebraska will probably never ask Price Sanford to carry that kind of load. But I wonder how much of that kind of secondary playmaker juice is there in Price Sanford, how much more he can fill out the frame, if at all. Probably not much more, and that's okay, because I think that agility is a big piece of his skill set.
Yeah, and he's got, a pretty narrow frame. Shoulders-wise, he's not very broad. So, the muscle, I don't think we'll see a huge, evolution in terms of his muscle mass.
Yeah, and what we're seeing, I think, really in the model of the Oklahoma City Thunder, in some cases with the Spurs as well, what the Pistons are having to fight through, kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, is avoiding being the weak link in the NBA. Again, this doesn't apply to college, where Price Sanford, if he's not already, is certainly going to be a superstar next year, right? This is a guy that I would expect to be borderline All-American if there's another, jump in his game and production and Nebraska continues its success. But in terms of Price Sanford at the NBA level, you can't just be a shooter. and you can't just be a defender, right? There's a reason that the Duncan Robinson gets less effective in the playoffs. There's a reason that the Thompson twins get a little bit less effective in the playoffs, because if you don't threaten teams on offense from the perimeter, or even as a driver putting pressure on the rim, and if you don't threaten teams as a defender, if they can take advantage of you on switches or even off the ball, you're going to get played off the court. You're a weak link. What we're finding is that, yeah, superstars matter, but in the playoffs, basketball has become a weak link sport. And I think there's enough in Price Sandfort defensively where he competes. He'll be in the right position. I go back to that possession against Valdez from Troy where he gets the steal. He dives on the floor. Price is certainly, a willing rebounder, not just hanging out on the perimeter waiting for the ball to come to him. But I don't think there's much fear of Price Sandfort just being a one-trick pony in the NBA. I'd just be curious to see if how Nebraska uses him translates it all to the NBA and how teams view what his ceiling can be in terms of, joining a rotation and then maybe a playoff rotation down the line.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for him, you said at the beginning, is, what can you do playmaking ability wise? Like, obviously hit the jumpers when you get those opportunities, but if you're having a couple go in and they start closing at you hard, I mean, the best guy to ever watch is like, what does Steph Curry do when he's got people chasing him? And that's to an insane degree because he's the best shooter of all time, arguably. But, what he's able to do when he doesn't have the ball, figure out ways to find the open space. And then once he gets it, how many people are coming down or chasing him? And then he's able to make some really good passes and just create like open, easy opportunities for other players around him. I think that's probably going to be the goal for Sandfort, is make sure that you're going to be placed in there as a shooter. I think that's probably going to be his first priority in that NBA. And then it's what can you add on to that to keep you on the court? Because you make a few threes, and if that's the game plan, like to your point, NBA teams, they're going to be too good to figure out how to cancel that out. And if you're in the playoffs, especially, you'll get snuffed out completely if that's the only thing you can do. So for Sandfort, I think the biggest thing for him is just going to be his playmaking ability, and we've seen it at times at Nebraska. It's not a negative for him. I wouldn't say it's a major positive either. I think he's just good at the college level. NBA, people are way faster at closing out. They're going to start ripping those things away. So that's going to be
close faster, all that stuff.
I mean, and just the wingspans alone of everyone out there. It's like you're going to be throwing, passes over Victor Wembanyama maybe at some point. That's where you got to get elite in that category. And I think for Sandfort, I don't think he's ever going to have the frame to be a defensive force. He's got active hands, maybe not elite. So that's probably the one spot to his game where he can really add on. Because I do think he's got a good mid-range jumper that can probably translate. And he's done enough to show that he can finish at the rim at times. But the playmaking, I mean, can you get your other guys open? Because realistically, I don't see him as, a superstar NBA player. But if he can get other guys open, I think him helping out his own teammates, that's how he's going to evolve his role in the NBA.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I'm with you on the ball handling and creation aspect of it. He makes the next right play.
Yeah.
He's a good teammate. He's not going to be a ball stopper, right? He's a good enough shooter that I think teams are going to encourage him to let it fly in transition and early in the shot clock if he's open. But I don't think Price Sandfort is just a chucker necessarily. I think there were times he took some early ones because, number one, there's not really a bad shot for Price Sandfort in college basketball. There are times that he disappeared from Nebraska's offense in some part because of his lack of on-ball creation, at a consistent basis, but also because of how dependent Nebraska is on the system. If other teams cover the first action or two, Nebraska got thrown into some disarray and really struggled. And so I don't ever blame Price Sandfort for just getting up an early one in transition, even if he's cold, just to get the blood pumping again a little bit, right? Price Sandfort's one of those guys that, to your Steph Curry point, moves, like a maniac off the ball. He doesn't just stand in one place really hardly ever. He's running off all sorts of actions. And to the contrary, what a lot of people would say, the NBA is more than just high pick and roll, everyone stand in your corner and go from there. So I think there's absolutely a role and a time and place for that. But I think Price Sandfort might have to get used to, unless, he does add something to his game, going, 6, 7, 8 minutes between shots and then having to hit the next wide open one, which I think he can do. But it's just going to be so different as opposed to being, number one on the scouting report for Nebraska, do everything you can to take away this favorite action of theirs, and here's their counter, to being, okay, he's playing on a team with, I don't know, like a Luka Doncic or an SGA or whatever. These guys are going to take the bulk of the shots. So, he's on the scouting report as a shooter that you run off. But would teams rather live with an open three from Stanford, or let a Doncic or an SGA or a Tatum, et cetera, Jokic get going down the line? It's going to be a different reality for him to adjust to, and that's where I think, even if it looks different in terms of the types of shots he's getting and when he's getting them, Nebraska's system being built in a lot of ways for him is one of the platonic ideals of what fits, but also him being so reliant on so much else going right to get to that shot does set him up for some success in the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing to think about too with Stanford and why, I'd say for him, he's maybe got to find some ways to find his offense a little bit more. I don't know necessarily what that looked like, but what I noticed with him in college, where guys were chasing him around a lot for that first half. And in the second half, I think guys just get tired. It's tough chasing that guy around an entire game. And then once the legs get a little bit tired, he starts to find himself a little bit more open. And I feel like that's where we saw Stanford take over, where he'd get a couple early, they'd really lock down on him, and then it wouldn't be till later in the game. In the NBA, when minutes are just everyone's scrapping, especially for those role players, they're going to be rotating guys in and out. They're not going to get as tired as they did in college. So I think the biggest thing for a guy like Stanford, so you're not just waiting for that one jump shot open in the corner. And if you want to evolve your game some more, what does that extra step of offense looks like? What can you add to your bag that, you can attack a little bit more frequently, even when that defense is on you? And to your point, where you're not relying on all the actions around you, he's got to have something in his bag that he can get himself open, without the assistance of everything else. Because again, I just think he's a great player, but guys got tired chasing him. And that's great credit to him for running around as much as he did. But in the NBA, you're just going to, again, elite athletes. They're going to have benches where they're going to be rotating guys in and out. What can you do? Just create that opening for yourself. And I think that's the question for Price Stanford. Again, if talking about how much he wants to evolve his NBA game.
Augie chimes in on the Con Knippel thing. Good grief, here goes the homer again. No, Augie, if you wanted me to be a homer, I would tell you all about how Cam Boozer had the same vertical jump as Cooper Flagg did at 35 inches. I'd tell you all about how Cam Boozer shot the same percent from three in the star drill as Darren Peterson did, by the way, 19 to 25, which was a shot better than Darius Acuff. I would also point out that of the group in the top four, Cam Boozer also had the best pro lane agility. That would be what being a homer would sound like. But of course, I'm not being a homer. So I'm saying that the Price Stanford and Con Knippel are different players.
Do you have a Con Hornets jersey t-shirt?
No, I haven't been able to find the right jersey yet. So
okay.
It'll happen.
Jersey? Shirt jersey?
Yeah, shirt jersey.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not. The actual jerseys are too expensive.
Yeah, no, they are. Well, you can try Fanatics.
Insane.
They got good deals every now and then.
Yeah, that'll last me 3 months before the colors faded and the letters are falling off, and who knows what size it'll be. And
I'm with
if
you.
you get the jersey to begin with. So
that's all right. I'm okay with the jersey.
Yeah, big jersey guy.
A little gross for me, but you're wearing the Duke hat. Go figure.
I am. Can I interest you in my Jonathan Taylor jersey?
Sure. Why not?
Well, he's a Wisconsin guy, but
yeah. That one doesn't bother me as much. The Duke fandom, I get on you all the time. I just don't fully understand it.
No one does.
It doesn't make sense.
It's okay.
Austin.
My fandom is my own.
It is your own, and it will forever be your own. And
where's Ginger Beard Man when I need him? He chimed in at some point before on today's show.
You could be a good case study for just like how people become fans of teams. You might be.
Are you going to donate my brain to science after I die just to see the results?
I think there would be a a research clinic willing to take a peek at it and wonder what's going on here, and just be kind of It's a good loyalty question.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never understand it.
Augie says doesn't change the results. Yeah, let's compare the results of the last 3 seasons for Duke and Carolina and see if those results are changing anytime, Augie. I don't think I would be willing to make that trade. I think you would make it in a heartbeat. It's all love. We'll take one final break in hour 2 of the show. We'll talk some NBA draft lottery in hour 3.
You're listening to Old School with Jay Foreman and Austin Orman. Download the mobile app and listen wherever you are on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Do you ever feel okay in your current job and profession, but wonder if there's a better company that can offer more? Vision Mechanical is now hiring for journeyman plumbers and HVAC service technicians. Vision Mechanical offers top-of-the-industry wages, 100% paid health, disability, and life insurance, 401k with employee match, and paid holidays and vacation. Vision Mechanical believes in craftsmanship, teamwork, and building a better future one project at a time. Apply today or learn more at visionmechanical.net or email Ron at vmech.net.
When something breaks, you want someone you can trust to fix it right. Empire Repair is now open in Waverly and ready to serve our community with reliable auto repair and maintenance. From routine service to bigger repairs, our team is here to keep you on the road. Stop by Empire Repair in Waverly or call 402-786-2224 to schedule your service today. Empire Repair, proud to serve Waverly.
Hi, Charlie Stone again, and Andy Goodyear with Honda of Lincoln will be joining me to talk about the Honda Spring event. Andy, I know this is a big event for you. Please tell us all about it.
I want to start out by thanking the Lincoln car buyers for an incredible year in 2025. It's just been announced that Honda of Lincoln is Nebraska's only Honda dealer to earn the prestigious Honda President's Award for 2025.
Wow, that's great, Andy. How many times now have you earned that President's Award?
It's a total of 20 times now, Charlie. The Honda Spring event is truly a big event for us. We have incredible savings on every remaining 2025 and every new 2026. Special low rates, long-term financing, and special lease rates.
Maybe it's time you experience the best, the Honda of Lincoln way of doing business. 27th and Yankee Hill Road or online at hondaoflincoln.com.
It's the best time of the year to order a new John Deere air seeder during Landmark Implement's early order program. Take your seeding performance to the next level with John Deere's advanced air seeding technology. Achieve precise seed and fertilizer placement. With innovative openers and section control, you can maximize efficiency and reduce input costs. Now is the time to lock in the best price of the year during Landmark Implement's air seeder early order program. Contact your local Landmark location for details and experience the Landmark difference.
If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and benefits like health, dental, and vision. Drivers are guaranteed 40 hours per week, even in the winter months, and are home every night. Start your career today at Gaina Trucking and Excavating. Apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
Things that impair you come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are the shape of beer and liquor bottles. Others look like cigarettes but aren't cigarettes at all. These are the things we know impair us, the things our parents warned us about. What we're not always aware of is our new prescription or the over-the-counter medicine we picked up just for allergies or a bad cold. See, it doesn't just matter how much of a substance you take. If you are impaired, driving is deceptively dangerous. Don't drive impaired. Paid for by the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Does someone in your household avoid phone calls because they can't hear clearly, or do they have difficulty speaking on the phone? Nebraska offers a solution. The Nebraska Specialized Telecommunications Equipment Program, or NSTEP, provides financial assistance for specialized devices like amplified phones, captioned telephones, smartphones with Bluetooth pairing to hearing aids, and speech-generating devices. If you're a Nebraska resident with a certified hearing or speech disability, you may qualify. It's not income-based, and once approved, you own the equipment. Learn more or apply at psc.nebraska.gov or call 1-800-526-0017.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet, GMC, and Chevrolet. And GMC Truck Month is here. Absolutely huge discounts and 2.9% for 72 months. I also just wanted to share a little bit more about the Koppel family. They've been serving the Omaha and Lincoln and surrounding communities for over 50 years with great customer service and small town charm. That's always been our motto, and we absolutely will not be undersold. It truly is confident buying and confident driving. So come on in, meet the team, check us out at Koppel or at KoppelCars.com. All deals with approved credit.
Don't ignore changes in your skin. Get them checked. May is Skin Cancer Awareness Month, and early detection could save your life. If you've noticed a new spot, a changing mole, or anything that doesn't look quite right, now is the time to act, not later. As you head into summer, protect your skin and stay proactive about your health. At Advanced Medical Imaging, they're here to support your care with advanced technology and a team you can trust, because catching something early can make all the difference. Advanced Medical Imaging, your partner in proactive health.
Sometimes good people make mistakes. When you find yourself in need of an attorney, call Liberty Law Group. The attorneys at Liberty Law Group will defend you in court and protect your freedom to get you the best possible outcome and the justice you deserve. Trust your freedom to Liberty Law Group, the best criminal attorneys in Nebraska and Iowa. Call them today at 877-404-5238. That's 877-404-5238. Or check them out online at libertylawgroup.com.
93.7 The Ticket. Fox KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, we'll see decreasing clouds throughout the day. It'll be breezy and warm with an afternoon high near 85. Tonight, mainly clear skies and a light breeze, a low around 51. Tomorrow, we'll see lots of sunshine and light winds, an afternoon high near 82. I'm meteorologist Kyle Collector for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Back to Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket.
Welcome back in to Old School, wrapping up hour 2 of the show. Full third hour yet to come. 402-464-5685. You can always be a part of the conversation. Want to get to this here very quickly, Harrison. A big shout out to Nebraska softball. They reached number 1 in the polls. Did not get the number 1 overall seed like I thought they had a chance of doing. They don't even get the number 3 seed, where their RPI you think would have placed them. They were number 1 in a net ranking tool that's not used by the NCAA in its selection criteria. But Nebraska softball at number 1 in the polls. Are they the title favorite? Are they your title favorite in college softball?
My title favorite, not the SEC's title favorite. I think that was. Can I just get your quick 2 cents on that? Absolutely outrageous. I mean, what were your thoughts? I thought for sure, especially the way you look at a lot of those teams lost, and you're kind of sitting there looking like, all right, this is completely opening up the door for Nebraska. And they also just took down, I think it was number 8 UCLA in the entire country. So I thought it was like almost a guarantee that we were going to be 1 at the lowest 2. I was kind of blown away that we dropped all the way to 4. I have not heard a single good argument for it yet. But sorry to all the other teams in our regional, because I think the Lady Huskers are not going to be super smiley heading into that one. I think they're going to be on a real mission to do some damage. Lightly.
I think the biggest issue is that the committee didn't have the guts to penalize Oklahoma.
Yes.
Whose reputation absolutely precedes it, but they're number 6 in all the major RPIs, number 5 in that net rating that I mentioned before as well.
And they didn't even make it to the finals in their conference tournament.
And I'm okay if that would have been like one or two of their losses, but Nebraska played the second hardest non-conference strength of schedule, the number 1 non-conference RPI, on top of making it further in the conference tournament, beating a quality team on its way, now a 3-1 season series edge over UCLA. It's not even to me about punishing Oklahoma for this one loss. It's that even the season-long numbers support Oklahoma as a 2 seed, not a 1 seed. It is purely their reputation. The only reason that they got a 1 seed. Yes, the 1 seed's a 1 seed. Nebraska is still there. But, instead of getting maybe the number 6 or the number 7 team in a potential super regional, they're stuck with the 4 or 5. They get the harder draw down the line between Oklahoma State and Stanford in the seeding list. And so for Nebraska to barely be a 1 seed, maybe it's a little bit of Big Ten disrespect, but Nebraska did everything last year to set the table for this year, being 1 game away from making the Women's College World Series, played the second hardest strength of schedule just in the non-conference, to make up for the lack of consistent marquee games in the Big Ten, and won more than its fair share of them, including, knocking off a different number 1 team 2 separate times. To me, it just comes down to the lack of guts from the committee. That's just scared to drop Oklahoma.
Yeah, and that's just absolutely outrageous. And that's the thing I was going to say. Like, if it's about the identity, let's not pretend that Rhonda Revelle hasn't been building up a monster over here. And listen, not all the years have been up there, like with what Oklahoma's history has been. But especially you look at last year, what they did. I thought that's more than enough, especially when you're looking at a lot of those same players. Then you add some really great talent along with it. And these freshmen have been just incredible for Nebraska on top of what you saw last year. So that's where I was like, again, I just couldn't find a good argument for it other than we're the SEC and we're just too cowardly to take Oklahoma out of it, or we're just, we think we're just that much better than the Big Ten, despite Nebraska doing everything it possibly needed to counter the argument. They did it right, and it still didn't necessarily work in their favor. It's just crazy.
It felt to me a little bit like what happened with Cincinnati in the college football playoff, where they were probably deserving the year before they got in, but they set the table for it, scheduled as aggressively as they could, even though those non-con games didn't pan out, and then got that number 4 seed nudge there that very next year. But Nebraska didn't leave any doubt last year, where they, hosting regionals, go on the road for Or they didn't host in regionals. They went to LSU, made it out of there, and then had to go to Tennessee. So they showed well there. 8985 says, I think the seeding showed how much influence ESPN has with that committee.
Well,
I maybe, but this is also the same ESPN that's sending its top broadcast team to Lincoln for this regional as well. So maybe they're trying to hide that bias. I don't know. But again, I think this is more about Oklahoma than it is about the SEC writ large, because by the RPIs, there were, Arkansas and Alabama were ahead of Nebraska. And so, okay, if you want to see those teams ahead because they're there in the RPI, so be it. But Oklahoma jumping Nebraska while still being 3 to 5 spots lower in these RPIs. Oklahoma, I think, had the number 29 non-conference strength of schedule, which is still good, but it's not number 2 like Nebraska. And it's not like Nebraska is doing the Auburn basketball argument. Look how many tough teams we played. Look how many tough teams Nebraska beat.
Yes.
That's the thing. And Crowbait says, I want to see a Nebraska versus Oklahoma national championship game due to Jordy's pass. That would be one for the record books. I think that would be probably the ultimate vindication for Nebraska, is if, Oklahoma makes it back to the Women's College World Series, and Nebraska and Oklahoma both make it through. I mean, you think about all of the football things they had, the basketball game from last year, on top of the Jordy Ball history, going to Oklahoma out of high school, transferring back to Nebraska, remaining the player that she's been, and probably even improving in the Nebraska program from where she was at Oklahoma. The story would write itself. And if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. What better way for Nebraska to cap, its first time in the Women's College World Series in over a decade than by getting to face off with the Sooners and hopefully taking them down?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It'd be a great storyline. We'd have plenty of things to talk about. It'd be great business for us. But, I don't know if they're a great team. I don't know if that's necessarily the favorite to make it all the way to the national championship. Again, all the more slap in the face to why they jumped Nebraska. I could sit here and pound my fist and be angry about it all day. But, it's not incredibly surprised. It did shock me. But, when you really think about it, I think you kind of hit it on the head there. I think it was more cowardly to take Oklahoma out of it than it was anything against Nebraska. It was our darlings. We got to protect them, and that is Oklahoma, unfortunately.
And Oklahoma was always going to host, but to give them the chance to host then in supers is really where it becomes incredibly egregious. We got to go to break. Harrison's there. I'm Austin. We will be back, talk some NBA draft lottery. We'll talk about the winners from the lottery in the first segment of the hour and the losers from the lottery in the second. That's all ahead on Old School, brought to you by Graham Tire Company.
Watch Old School live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
MWR, a local company of Lincoln, is proud to announce they are able to offer their own post-frame building packages in metal to anyone desiring a building, whether you're a contractor or a DIYer. They can install your building as always, and they offer multiple different rib profiles and loads of color options, including the wood grain metal at great competitive prices. You can inquire at mwrbuildingandfence.com or just draw your desired building and submit it in their contact us page, and they'll get back to you. Call MWR today at 402-540-8966.
Sometimes good people make mistakes. When you find yourself in need of an attorney, call Liberty Law Group. The attorneys at Liberty Law Group will defend you in court and protect your freedom to get you the best possible outcome and the justice you deserve. Trust your freedom to Liberty Law Group, the best criminal attorneys in Nebraska and Iowa. Call them today at 877-404-5238. That's 877-404-5238. Or check them out online at libertylawgroup.com.
Don't ignore changes in your skin. Get them checked. May is Skin Cancer Awareness Month, and early detection could save your life. If you've noticed a new spot, a changing mole, or anything that doesn't look quite right, now is the time to act, not later. As you head into summer, protect your skin and stay proactive about your health. At Advanced Medical Imaging, they're here to support your care with advanced technology and a team you can trust, because catching something early can make all the difference. Advanced Medical Imaging, your partner in proactive health.
It's the best time of the year to order a new John Deere air seeder during Landmark Implement's early order program. Take your seating performance to the next level with John Deere's advanced air seeding technology. Achieve precise seed and fertilizer placement. With innovative openers and section control, you can maximize efficiency and reduce input costs. Now is the time to lock in the best price of the year during Landmark Implement's Air Seeder Early Order Program. Contact your local Landmark location for details and experience the Landmark difference.
Hey there, this is Paul Scheel, owner of High Electric. I want to thank our friends and loyal customers and introduce High Electric to those looking for a new electrician. We've been serving the Lincoln and Omaha area for over 30 years, from design to install, upgrades, and repair. If you are a homeowner or a small business needing some electrical work, call us at 402-466-6606 or check us out at hyelectric.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
Life happens. Unexpected bills, tough choices. Your car needs repairs, but your child needs new shoes. What do you decide? At Nebraska Children and Families Foundation, they help families before small problems become breaking points. They connect parents to support so they can keep working, so kids stay secure, and so families stay together. Help Lincoln families thrive. Donate to Nebraska Children and Families Foundation through Give to Lincoln.
Select Plumbing and Utility has been serving Lincoln and the surrounding area for 14 years, and they're not slowing down. Select Plumbing and Utility handles all your plumbing needs, from faucets and water heaters to full renovations, and they can even help with your heating and cooling needs. They're also Lincoln's underground experts, repairing and replacing broken underground water and sewer lines since day one. Contact Select Plumbing and Utility today at 402-560-6197, assuring excellence in every situation, opportunity, and challenge. That's 402-560-6197.
Does someone in your household avoid phone calls because they can't hear clearly, or do they have difficulty speaking on the phone? Nebraska offers a solution. The Nebraska Specialized Telecommunications Equipment Program, or NSTEP, provides financial assistance for specialized devices like amplified phones, captioned telephones, smartphones with Bluetooth pairing to hearing aids, and speech-generating devices. If you're a Nebraska resident with a certified hearing or speech disability, you may qualify. It's not income-based, and once approved, you own the equipment. Learn more or apply at psc.nebraska.gov or call 1-800-526-0017.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Couple Chevrolet, GMC, and GMC Truck Month is here. Absolutely huge discounts and 2.9% for 72 months. I also just wanted to share a little bit more about the Couple family. They've been serving the Omaha and Lincoln and surrounding communities for over 50 years with great customer service and small town charm. That's always been our motto, and we absolutely will not be undersold. It truly is confident buying and confident driving. So come on in, meet the team, check us out at Couple or at CoppleCars.com. All deals with approved credit.
Coming at you live from the heart of downtown Lincoln, this is Old School with Foreman and Orman. Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman.
Here's Coy Detmer dropping straight back in the pocket. Rifles a pass. It was tipped. It's picked off by Foreman. He's at the 15, 10, 5. He'll score! Foreman got it, and it's touchdown Huskers. Black shirts answer the call one more time.
And Austin Orman. Old School with Foreman and Orman is sponsored by Graham Tire Company of Lincoln, your tire store next door with 4 Lincoln locations. Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Away we go, hour 3 of Old School on a Tuesday. Austin Orman, Harrison Orange with you, 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Big thanks to Graham Tire Company for their sponsorship of the show. They've been proudly serving the Midwest for over 75 years. More than just tires, they do all kinds of car and light truck repairs too. From brakes to oil changes, trust Graham Tire for service you can count on. Graham Tire getting you to the places that matter most. Exciting things coming your way from Graham Tire next week. I can't say more right now, but just stay tuned to the show and keep it tuned during the commercials as well. Graham Tire is going to have a heck of a deal for you leading into your Memorial Day, kicking off your summer. NBA draft process has officially kicked off. Harrison Arons with the NBA draft lottery. Did not get a chance to talk about this yesterday. Wanted some time to flesh it out fully, and you and your NBA knowledge are the perfect person to flesh it out with right now. We're going to start with just the winners here in this segment because I think there are some teams that ended up winning pretty big in the draft lottery. We started this off with your Chicago Bulls, and I think we can lump the Memphis Grizzlies in here as well. Both of those teams end up jumping a couple spots from where their ping pong balls said they probably should have landed. I think quickly for Memphis, it's a lot of fun young pieces there on that team with a chance to add one more. You mentioned it in your brief little synopsis with Chicago, kind of floating around mediocrity. They get the bounces of the ping pong balls, and now they get a chance to add a young, exciting upper lottery kind of talent with a new guy in charge of all the drafting there with the new GM hire.
Yeah, I said it really worked out. I don't know what their odds were, but kind of in the same boat with the Bulls. I think the Bulls had like just a little bit better than 1/5 chance to slide up in there. It's a great opportunity. And I will say this much. Thought the NBA lottery was rigged. This was a good example of maybe it isn't. It is rigged. It was an interesting one. There was actually, I think, a lot of excitement. I will say, though, Austin, out of all of this, I think we as the fans were the biggest losers.
Really?
And you can point that out to the Washington Wizards. Wizards tanked so bad, so ugly. We got to see a Bam Adebayo break Kobe Bryant's 81-point game. He had 88, but the 83. I mean, they were just putting out horrible lineups, horrible basketball, the most obvious tank job probably in our lifetime, or at least my lifetime, and it worked. I mean, the grossness worked. It is in your favor as an NBA team if you're struggling to be horrible, to make bizarre trades, to sit Anthony Davis for, the entire, well, obviously you couldn't
play Young.
Yep. It's just, they just put bad basketball and it worked. Like they won out of it. So that's what I say as like a fan, that's awful. Because it's just more proof that tanking and playing bad basketball that nobody likes to watch is the way to dramatically shift your odds.
What if I shared this with you from ESPN Insights? The Wizards are the first team to win the lottery after finishing with the league's worst record since the NBA changed the lottery format in 2019.
I think it's still, you're still going to be out there. Tanking's the way to do it, though. I mean, to get your chances, you just be awful. Okay. And then with the new lottery system, I know there's some ideas to like changing it some more, but I think your best chance is still tank. It doesn't always work. We can talk about our Brooklyn Nets and like some of these
we'll
other
get
teams.
to that in the losers because we're on the winners right now. Let me give you some more reasons that I put the Wizards themselves in the winners category. I see where you're coming from with the fans.
Yeah,
point.
The Wizards won. Don't get me wrong. They are winners. We as fans, I think, are losers.
I'll give you a couple other data points for why I'm not so mad at their egregious tank. Number one, you saw who repped him on stage, right? John Wall was there.
Oh,
he was their lottery
Wall.
Representative.
I didn't even see it.
He was their most recent number one overall pick back in the 2010 draft. So that's pretty cool. John Wall is becoming a pretty respected voice across basketball.
Yeah, I got a soft spot
like
for John
that.
Wall. Some of the most exciting basketball when he was just a freak athlete when he was in his prime. Just some of the best posters out there.
Oh, yeah. Do you know the Wizards' other number one draft pick of the 2000s?
They had another one in the 2000s. I have no idea.
Okay, 402-464-5685. We'll give you $30 to Buffalo Wings and Rings if you can tell me the Washington Wizards' other number one overall pick of the 2000s. We'll give you that answer when we get it on our Starter Heyman Jewelers text line. So John Wall, a good number one overall pick for that city, is on stage to win it.
That's awesome.
I think that's pretty cool. Here's the other thing. The Wizards have been that for a while, right? Last year, they were one ping pong ball away from winning the Cooper Flag lottery. They were also one ping pong ball away from winning the Victor Wembanyama lottery.
Yeah, that's tough.
I don't know, and I'll ask you this question. I don't know if Devonta, Peterson, Boozer, maybe throw Caleb Wilson in that conversation, are that tier of prospect. They're pretty dang good players in their own right, right? At least three of those guys, like I said, I think yesterday, 3.5 of those guys could be, foundational pieces for a franchise. I don't know if any of them are Cooper Flag level, certainly not in terms of hype right now. Maybe they grow into better players when it's all said and done. I don't think any of those guys are Wemby level in terms of singular, game-changing, forces that's an alien. But I think they're all, good enough prospects. If you're the Wizards, would you have rather won the Wemby lottery, the Flag lottery, or this lottery?
Victor. I mean, this is out of the three, we don't know. But to your point, I don't think those guys with Victor Wembanyama, you didn't have to be a genius to figure out why that guy's going to be a problem in the league with his ball handling ability. Great, you can put all that, but worst case scenario, you got a monster in there who's always going to be able to protect the rim. And then with Cooper Flagg, I just think there was obviously enough on there. And then you're seeing him playing with Team USA, and NBA stars are calling him a legit prospect. And you able to see what he was able to do at college. Dibanto's a great player. Doesn't have maybe that same kind of hype around. Doesn't mean he can't end up being a phenomenal player. And who knows, maybe he's the best player, between Cooper Flagg and Victor Wembanyama all at the end of his career. But I think if you're being realistic, if you had the three to pick from, for me, I'm picking Victor Wembanyama. You might be biased and lean Cooper Flagg, but I think most people would say Victor.
Well, I think I would have won either of the previous two lotteries instead of this one.
Yes, for sure. I mean, that's the split hairs. I think you're very happy still if you get Cooper Flagg.
Or anyone at the top of this draft. I think DeBonza probably fits their current roster the best. Is this current roster what they want it to be in its final form? You can tell me that, a Trae Young, AJ DeBonza, Anthony Davis core is intriguing, especially in that Eastern Conference with some of the role players they have around it. Maybe Peterson fits in, but they have a bunch of guards that they invest. Trey Johnson from last year, Bilal Coulibaly in that mix as well. Oh, and Sarr right at center. If you want AD at power forward, where I know he wants to play more than at center, where he's probably best.
Right.
But that's at least an intriguing group. I think DeBonza is probably the most natural fit right now. Does he have a higher ceiling? Do you trust Darren Peterson to get healthy and show the promise that he did in stretches at Kansas and in high school? Do you take Boozer and say, that's our power forward of the future because AD we're going to flip in a trade or he's gone? You take the upside swing with Caleb Wilson, continue to get athletic. I don't know. I could see the Wizards going a bunch of directions. Before we move on with some more winners here, Harrison, are we pro spelling error, or do we need the letter of the law in terms of spelling the name correctly?
Wait, say that one more time.
So we have the right answer on our Starter Heyman Jewelers text line.
Oh, I see where we're going. Okay.
Do we give it to the person that was in first but misspelled the name, or give it to the person who actually spelled the name correctly?
I think they might be driving, so as long as it's not overly egregious and if it's close, like exactly who they're talking about, they just got a typo, I think you give it to them.
We just added an extra letter is all that happened.
Okay, I think that's fair.
So,
I mean, he might be a busy guy, and if he was like at a stoplight quick texting it in and now he's driving, like I'll allow some errors.
All right, 2366 for that reason you will be our winner because Harrison has mercy. Kwame Brown. Kwame Brown, the other
be not a great name.
one pick for the Washington Wizards in the 2000s. Congrats to everyone who got that right answer. Some of you get a virtual digital pat on the back, but 2366, go ahead and send in your name. We'll put it on $30 to Buffalo Wings and Rings. They got 2 Lincoln locations. Great friends of the station. Great people down there. We're always out there for March Madness and the Super Bowl, and I'm trying to make it one of my regular spots here around town. They do great work. Really appreciate them for everything they do here for us. The other thing on the Wizards before we move on.
Quickly, I got to ask you, were you not going to give it to him with the typo of the extra letter?
It wasn't right.
You are heartless.
Kwame Brown is not the same as Kwame Brown.
All right.
Okay, the name is not Kwame Brown. The name is Kwame.
I'm a learner. You're a cruel man. Is what I'm finding out.
I'm a stickler for stuff like that.
Clearly,
I don't have many skills in life, but like editing, like just simple typos like that.
Well,
I know they happen to all of us, but they just irk me to no end.
Well, I think obviously in our field it's a little bigger deal too, so it makes sense to why you'd be a stickler on it.
Yeah. So, all right, next time 2366, we'll see if you're so lucky.
Yeah, if I'm running the board, you're good.
Now winning,
if Austin's running the board, really check your spelling.
Yeah, that's the word to the wise. How about Anthony Davis, though? His teams have now won the NBA draft lottery 3 times. They got the number 1 overall pick in New Orleans. They drafted Zion Williamson. They make the Luka Doncic trade that brings Anthony Davis to Dallas when they get Cooper Flagg. Then he gets traded out, obviously, to Washington. And we'll see if Anthony Davis is around. I would guess he is for at least this coming year. But it's just kind of interesting that Anthony Davis appears to hold some sway over the ping pong ball process.
He's 1 for 2 so far because him being there with Zion didn't quite work out great. I think we're disappointed on where Zion's at his point in his career. With Cooper Flagg, we'll wait and see. But man, talk about a guy with a lot of opportunities in his entire career. Anthony Davis, he's been on some really stellar lineups, and it's interesting that at this point in his career, and a lot of it's because of injuries, he's been just getting shipped around right and left. But when AD's healthy, he's still just one of the best centers out there.
Power forwards out there, according to him.
One of the best power forwards out there that we'll all remember. One of the great, it always cracks me up. But yeah, I mean, he's probably one of the more interesting NBA careers you've seen, because when he was with the Pelicans and then how he gets out with the Pelicans, I think he's wearing like the Looney Tunes shirt. There was a lot of drama. It was gross on the way, on his way to the Lakers, and then of course with the Lakers, did LeBron trade him? What happened there? They get Luka. I mean, there's been just a lot of crazy opportunities for Anthony Davis, and despite being around great players, it hasn't always worked out for him. I mean, and now with the Wizards, we'll see. I mean, maybe this is the time where he can be that old vet with a new rising superstar. And we say it all the time: the East is open. I mean, I just thought, with the Boston Celtics going down, you're like, oh boy. But then you're looking at the New York Knicks, who just swept the 76ers. So I couldn't tell you about the East other than it's open. So maybe this works out for Anthony Davis. And if they get Dybonte, which is probably where they'll lean, I think, it'll be fun to watch for a while, at least see how that team develops. And again, I think they'll be certainly competitive in the East.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Let's get to two more winners that I have, and then we'll get to you guys on the Starter Heyman Jewelers text line and on our video stream on the typo stuff. People have thoughts. I want to get the winners out of the way, and then we can circle back. I think the Western Conference and really the NBA is a winner, because the Clippers pick that went to Oklahoma City stayed at number 12, didn't move up into that kind of blue chip range. OKC had a 7% chance at moving up into the top 4 and a 1.5% chance at number 1. Obviously a long shot to get there, but it didn't. And I think, thank goodness for the rest of the league, either, Sam Presti would have flipped it for a bunch of, other picks or players and held at ransom, or would have taken a dang good player to extend the dynasty in the making in OKC. But then by virtue of that, the Clippers, near losers in almost giving that pick in the lottery to OKC, but I think they're winners themselves. They traded Vika Zubac, receive a top 4 and bottom 20 protected pick from Indiana that lands at number 5. The Clippers only get this pick if it was 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. And they hit the best possible outcome there at number 5. They had a 48% chance of getting this pick by the ping pong balls. They got the best possible option of this. And I see this two ways. Number one, I think it's great for their short term. They can get a win now piece on a roster that in some ways is built to make the playoffs now and contend and push forward. I think that also puts them in position to maybe trade back. They have some good young guards on that roster already. That's kind of the point guard range of the draft. Are they able to convince a guard needy team to trade up to number 5 and continue to accumulate assets? Or Yahoo Sports says this could be their chance to trade Kawhi Leonard, accumulate some more of those draft picks and let this younger roster grow together, which I think is a really interesting kind of mindset, especially in light of LeBron's looming decision.
Right.
The Warriors still going star hunting in the late stages of that team as well.
And Steve Kerr's back.
Steve Kerr back for 2 years as well. Could that be the window for them to make their run? The difference is that they lose now their pick in 2031 because they got this one from Indiana. Is either, they miss out on this pick and get the one in 31, or they get this pick and then lose the one in 2031. If they keep Kawhi Leonard, that 2031 pick, I think, comes into play a whole lot more. You might have rather had that one, just not knowing what the state of your franchise is at that point. If you're rebuilding, if you can use that, for other trades to build around him at the end of his career or what have you. So I think it's a really fascinating spot the Clippers are in. Overall winners, but some decisions to make.
Yeah, and Kawhi Leonard's an interesting decision to make because he quietly had one of the best seasons.
Yeah.
Late in his
Kawhi
career.
was insane.
Yeah, he was he should have been, especially mid-season in that MVP conversation, I thought more.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, it's a great time to trade him. So you're at a where he put together an incredible season where you're going to have some people willing to make you some probably really good-looking offers for Kawhi Leonard. But at the same time, if you like where you're at, now, the West is really, really loaded, and I think that might be the direction you still choose to trade Kawhi because you just kind of look around, and the Timberwolves aren't going anywhere anytime soon. The Spurs aren't. The Nuggets got to rework some things around Jokic, but as long as he's playing, you'd imagine they'll be a threat. I might move on from Kawhi Leonard, despite everything, because he's got such probably great value right now.
Yeah.
And then you could just kind of try to build around and start going in a younger direction because I just think the West is going to be really, really tough. And Kawhi Leonard, you're going to have that chance for injury still. So if you try to commit right now and you have some unfortunate injuries, you might be regretting not moving him when, he was having some great basketball and the sticker price was high on him.
Yeah, it really was. All right. To our text line and streams. We'll start on stream. At Omaha 402 Nebraska sees the title of the stream and says $29 million roster. How? Wyman and I broke that down all hour one. So finish listening to the show, and then over supper, or once your kids are in bed, don't know your life situation, pull up the first hour of the show. We kind of walk you through how Nebraska got to $29 million and what it means. On our Starter Human Jewelers text line, Don says he was driving, had to do it quick at the stoplight. Don, you were not our winner, but thank you for not really texting and driving. I mean, I still think texting at a stoplight is texting and driving. Done that a time or two myself. I think we all have in this day and age. But, at least thank you for waiting for a stoplight. Find a parking lot to pull into if you can. Get back on the road, but appreciate you doing it as responsibly as you can in your efforts to win. I want to get to this, though, from 1243. Given your typo debate, you should probably give two winners. I'm just saying. Well, number one, 1243, you weren't number one or number two or number three or number four down the list. You were in early, but you were not necessarily next in line. And I've been saying this time and again when it comes to NCAA tournament qualification and college football playoff qualification. Actions or lack thereof have consequences. Participation trophy culture, we rag on it all the time, but that's what this looks like. We give it to the guy that was in first, or we give it to the guy that spelled it right first. One or the other. I think that Buffalo Wings and Rings is a great restaurant. Everyone deserves the opportunity to try it. And the way that they're going to be in business longer is if we don't keep giving away free money. One person can win, so our friends at Buffalo Wings and Rings stay in business. Not everyone gets, the Oprah Winfrey, you get a boat, you get a car, whatever. No, we'll give away money because they give it to us to give to you guys, but still go eat there. It's good food. Spend your hard-earned money there because it's going to be worth it for an incredible meal and incredible service. Yeah, no participation trophy culture here. Not on Old School.
I was going to say, go down there. It's great food. Spend your own money, because if you're hearing this, Austin clearly isn't going to be giving you any handouts anytime
until
soon.
You win.
He's a stickler.
Win it.
Even though he's been taking 5 every time. No, he's not stealing them. But, go check it out. It's a great time down there. Go get yourself a picture, especially this time of year. It's fantastic. I know the one that we go to that's got some good outside seating as well.
Oh, yeah. Nice patio.
And especially if you got a family and kids, like that's a place where you can bring the whole family, and they got stuff for you to watch. And then it's a big enough area where you're, always pretty comfortable. So definitely check them out. Shout out Buffalo Wings and Rings. And you heard Austin, we're only giving out one, no more than one.
Sometimes we'll give out 2, but you have to answer a different question. Correct? Yeah, we're not giving out, multiple per question necessarily, because we love our friends at Wings and Rings. Go spend your money there. They deserve it. I promise. I'll put the Old School, guarantee have a great time, a great meal stamp on it. I don't do that very often. I do it for Graham Tire. I do it for Schweezo. I do it for Buffalo Wings and Rings. Heartland, Nebraska windows as well. They're the 4. Depend on them.
The big 4. Love it.
It's also a big 4 in the NBA draft. Who is not getting a chance to draft them? Who are the NBA draft lottery losers? We'll talk about that next on Old School.
You're listening to Old School with Jay Foreman and Austin Orman. Download the mobile app and listen wherever you are on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Don't ignore changes in your skin. Get them checked. May is Skin Cancer Awareness Month, and early detection could save your life. If you've noticed a new spot, a changing mole, or anything that doesn't look quite right, now is the time to act, not later. As you head into summer, protect your skin and stay proactive about your health. At Advanced Medical Imaging, they're here to support your care with advanced technology and a team you can trust, because catching something early can make all the difference. Advanced Medical Imaging, your partner in proactive health.
Sometimes good people make mistakes. When you find yourself in need of an attorney, call Liberty Law Group. The attorneys at Liberty Law Group will defend you in court and protect your freedom to get you the best possible outcome and the justice you deserve. Trust your freedom to Liberty Law Group, the best criminal attorneys in Nebraska and Iowa. Call them today at 877-404-5238. That's 877-404-5238. Or check them out online at libertylawgroup.com.
Life happens. Unexpected bills, tough choices. Your car needs repairs, but your child needs new shoes. What do you decide? At Nebraska Children and Families Foundation, they help families before small problems become breaking points. They connect parents to support so they can keep working, so kids stay secure, and so families stay together. Help Lincoln families thrive. Donate to Nebraska Children and Families Foundation through Give to Lincoln.
At Cedars, we're here to make sure that kids have the safety and stability that every child deserves, where they're protected and where they feel safe. You make this possible. Today, more than ever, we need your support to be here for kids who have nowhere else to call home. Now through May 28th, make a big impact through Give to Lincoln. Give to Cedars now at givetolincoln.com.
Does someone in your household avoid phone calls because they can't hear clearly, or do they have difficulty speaking on the phone? Nebraska offers a solution. The Nebraska Specialized Telecommunications Equipment Program, or NSTEP, provides financial assistance for specialized devices like amplified phones, captioned telephones, smartphones with Bluetooth pairing to hearing aids, and speech-generating devices. If you're a Nebraska resident with a certified hearing or speech disability, you may qualify. It's not income-based, and once approved, you own the equipment. Learn more or apply at psc.nebraska.gov or call 1-800-526-0017.
Rick Heyman here from Sartor Heyman Jewelers. I want to personally thank our great customers for voting us once again the best of Lincoln. At the same time, we're celebrating our 120th year in business in the great state of Nebraska. You can count on Sartor Heyman for the very best quality, value, and customer service. When it comes to your jewelry needs, visit us at South Point, Grand Island, and the Outlet in downtown Lincoln. Visit us today at sartorheyman.com, and thank you for your continued trust after all these years.
Hey there, this is Paul Scheel, owner of High Electric. I want to thank our friends and loyal customers and introduce High Electric to those looking for a new electrician. We've been serving the Lincoln and Omaha area for over 30 years, from design to install, upgrades, and repair. If you are a homeowner or a small business needing some electrical work, call us at 402-466-6606 or check us out at hyelectric.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
Fight fans! Dynasty Combat Sports returns to the Pinnacle Bank Arena on Friday, May 15th for an action-packed night of cage fights. In the main event, UFC veteran Derek Minner makes his bare-knuckle MMA debut against Eduardo Peralta. In the co-main event, undefeated bare-knuckle boxer Nate Morrow faces Missouri's Ira Lukowski, plus Lincoln favorites Sean Lindgren, Jeremy Small, Victor Badola, and Camden Golden. All part of a stacked 16-fight lineup. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster or the arena box office. Fight cards subject to change.
Back to Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Half an hour left on Old School for the day. Austin Foreman, Harrison Orange with you here at 93.7 The Ticket and beyond. Streaming worldwide, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all up for our free app for your phone, as well as Allo Channel 961. Talking some NBA draft lottery, got done with the winners. Time to talk now about the losers. I think really there are three main losers of the NBA draft lottery, Harrison. The easier one, I think, to talk about is the New Orleans Pelicans. The Derek Queen trade is now complete. New Orleans got number 13 in last year's draft, where they end up picking Derek Queen. They ended up giving away number 5 and number 8 in this year's draft. Derek Queen was good. He was solid. He was fine. But man, one bite of that apple as opposed to two at this year's NBA draft. Looking like a bit of a mistake in retrospect, like we thought it might be on draft night last night.
Yeah, that was
last year.
Literally the very first team that came in my head when you're thinking about losers. It was like the Pelicans. Like, it's just, obviously, if you knew the trade situation, but if you were a casual to the fan, you're looking at that NBA draft lottery, you're like, where are the Pelicans at? It's like, well, they weren't very smart with their selections. To your point, like, Queen's fine, but like, is that really worth it? Obviously, hindsight being 2020, like, no, you would much rather have two swings at it this year. And the Pelicans has just been really a dumpster fire of an organization. They had a lot of hype there when Griffin and Zion and Ingram and Lonzo, and that was the whole trade between the Lakers with Anthony Davis. But there's actually some real hope there. Then you pull Zion, and I mean, it's just all falling apart. I don't know if there's any hope left with Pelicans fans, and there's not a lot that I know. I probably have to go to New Orleans to find any Pelicans fans out there, but they're certainly not cultivating any new fans anytime soon. And again, them not being on the board at all yesterday, and then having two picks that they could have had, and instead they had nothing this year. Just a tough time for that franchise and their fans to like find something to get excited about, because sometimes you don't always win. Like for my Chicago Bulls, like maybe a top 4 pick isn't going to save the franchise. And Bryson Graham, it's actually kind of refreshing. He talked about that as new vice president of basketball operations down there. And like, this isn't going to necessarily save it. It's refreshing, but we have things to be excited for and root for. The Pelicans.
Mm-hmm.
What are you even excited about for?
You're excited about Derek Queen. And
I guess
that's the list. Maybe Jeremiah Fears continues to develop.
Is there any hope for Zion?
Trey Murphy can bring you back some stuff in the trade. Herb Jones can play some defense.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just kind of meh. You know?
Yeah.
And that's why, to me, probably like they just stick out there number one. You could throw the Milwaukee Bucks in there for losers as well. Obviously, with the whole Giannis Antetokounmpo situation, they probably needed to catch some fire. And then getting a 10, not a terrible spot, but kind of in that same territory. I think the Bucks are sitting there with a lot of questions around.
Well, and they've drafted so bad.
Yes. And at number 10, what's left? Can you maybe sneakily get a really good player that falls to you? Maybe, but you're just in a tough spot. To your point, they've done a horrible job drafting when they have had good picks. So the Bucks, I throw them in there in the losers list. They could have probably used a little bit more hope and some luck on their side for this year's lottery.
I will stick in the Central Division for my first loser. And I think it's probably the at least in my mind, the biggest kind of headlines loser. There's a sneaky loser that I'll get to next. It's the Indiana Pacers. You go from pushing Oklahoma City to 7 games in the finals, losing Tyrese Halliburton, for the second half of Game 7 with the Achilles tear. You get beat up by injuries all year. 2 franchise worst losing streaks throughout the course of this year. And you had a greater than 50% chance of keeping your pick in the top 4 to add to what proved to be a championship caliber roster just one season before. And instead you completely lose the pick. Think about adding, your choice of DeBonsa, Peterson, Boozer, Wilson to that mix.
Mm-hmm.
Or even, if you get a pick down at number 10, you can add some help to the front court, whether it's, a Yaxel Lendeborg or an Adai Mara, or, the list goes on. The bright side for the Pacers is that in that 5 to 9 range where they lose the pick, that's a lot of guards, which guess what the Pacers have in spades right now? It's a bunch of guards. But by losing the pick, they lose a chance to trade down and get more picks or players to consolidate, potentially into a trade. Ivica Zubac, fine player, good player, probably going to fit well with a healthy Halliburton, but is he worth the price of, one of the top players in this year's draft? Probably not. And okay, you get your 2031 pick back, but who the heck knows what that can hold? So, the year from hell from Indiana seemed to get just a little bit worse on lottery afternoon.
Yeah, that's good. It just didn't pay off for him. And we talked about this on some of my other shows, that the Pacers might be sitting in a beautiful spot despite how bad it's been. Because I think people kind of forgot that we've run to this era. It's like, oh, no one can beat the Thunder. Pacers almost did. To your point, Game 7. And a lot of it was Halliburton, what he was doing. Siakam was a great addition to that team. And you go through just a season through hell, but you're like, it can pay off here. And then, of course, it doesn't work out for him. So the Pacers in a tough spot. They really could have used, didn't even need to be a home run. They just needed to be in the mix to really help that team out. Because, you could, there's quite a few players in that draft that you could, figure out, make an argument, but to add some depth to that roster. And now they're on the outside looking in, and we'll see. I think it's still going to be a very good team, but I think they were hoping if you're in that conversation, maybe you can find just enough there to put you back over the top. And again, the East is open. I think, if you're feeling good there, you get a good pick, you probably click right back into what you were expecting. Maybe not 2 seasons ago, but at least in the conversation of being a team that can go contend for an NBA Finals.
The other major loser for me is the Brooklyn Nets. The first thing, shout out to Brett Siegel writing about the NBA for Clutch Points, says Brooklyn almost had number 1. The first 2-digit combinations essentially made it a 50-50 chance for Brooklyn and Washington. Number 1 popped out next. Number 12 is right behind. He says if the number had been number 12 instead of number 1, the Nets would have had a 91% chance at the number 1 pick, having 10 of the remaining 11 combinations, with the Wizards having just 1. But once the third number was 1, that took the Nets out of the running, and the Wizards had automatically won it no matter what the final number ended up being. And so one ping pong ball change, and the Nets are out of contention for that number 1 overall pick. Sam Quinn writing about the NBA for CBS Sports. The Nets traded 3 first-rounders and 1 first-round swap to regain control over all their 25 and 26 first rounders so they can tank. Across the two lotteries, they slide down a combined 5 slots in the Cooper Flag draft and this 4-player draft. You go through all that work to get your picks back. You can't get it paid off. And then this from Billy Reinhart, who does some attorney work and then some sports talk on the side as well. He says, if Brooklyn doesn't land in the top 4 in the draft lottery, this is truly the unluckiest franchise in the sport, historically speaking. Here's his evidence. The Nets drafted Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the ABA, but he chose to sign with Milwaukee in the NBA. The story behind that is that Kareem is going to listen to offers from both. He said he would pick the best offer. He got both teams' offers. Milwaukee's was better. He says Milwaukee. The Nets come in with a desperate kind of follow-up. And Kareem says, well, I said I already committed to Milwaukee, so I'm not going to go and play for you. They had to forfeit Julius Erving, who was on their team when they moved from the ABA to the NBA. Where does Dr. J end up? Right down the road in Philly. They draft Drazen Petrovic, who was off to a pretty good start in his NBA career before he's tragically killed in the car accident.
Yeah.
They're ready to draft Kobe Bryant with John Calipari as head coach before Kobe threatens to go play professionally in Italy if they take him. He doesn't end up there. They go 12 and 70, only get the 3rd pick, get Derek Favors instead of John Wall back in 2010. Okay. They make that trade with the Celtics, right? For Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce and all that, Ray Allen to the end of that dynasty. None of those picks slid any further for the Celtics, who also nailed them with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So on and so forth. And the last part on that with the Celtics point, since 2010, when the Nets have held their own lottery pick, it's underachieved all 3 times. They've slid down. When another team held the Nets pick, it either broke even or overachieved all 6 times. Here are those picks. So in 2010, right, that Favors draft, their lottery odds were 1st overall. They finished 3rd. They get Derek Favors. 2011, the Nets have the 6th best odds. They move up to 3rd, and the Jazz with that pick select Enes Kanter. 2012, the Blazers hold that pick. It stays at number 6. The Blazers take Dame Lillard. Moving on down the list, 2016 and 17, the Nets had the number 3 and the number 1 overall chances back-to-back years. It sticks at number 3, where they take Brown at 6 at number 1, where the Celtics make the little bit of the surprise move and take Jason Tatum in that draft as well. Of course, they traded back to 3rd and end up taking him there, and he's become the best player from that draft class in that opening range to this point. 2018, that first rounder went to Cleveland. Nets had the 8th overall odds. They pick number 8. Or Cleveland does with that pick. They get Colin Sexton.
At least they got a top 10 finally.
Right.
I mean, no, not great.
But it wasn't theirs. It went to Cleveland.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, we've only had 1 Nets pick so far. It was the first one where they dropped from 1st to 3rd to take Derek Favors.
I heard that wrong. So that was Cleveland's.
Yes. The last pick that moved up was last year. The Nets had the 9th best odds. It moved up to number 3 for the Rockets to take Reed Shepherd. And then last year, when they control their own pick for the first time since 2010, 6th best odds moved down 2 spots to 8 overall, where they take Igor Demine out of BYU. This year, 3rd best odds slide down to 6th when they control their own destiny.
Now, if you want to talk about is the NBA fix, like the Brooklyn Nets are probably the best team. That is a horrible, horrible run in draft picks. And then I had to look it up because I wasn't sure. I was like, when was the last time they had just a number 1 overall pick? Because you think a franchise that's been that bad, I think it's 2000. Let's go back to Kenyon Martin.
Kenyon Martin, probably.
Yeah. So you have to go all the way back there. And even when we're not talking about picks, like they just had terrible luck, whether it's players being moody or not liking their coaches. Like at one point, I think the last time they really had some buzz is when they had Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and it was James Harden, right? Yeah, James Harden.
And then the pandemic hits when those guys are all healthy.
Yeah, and they were actually winning ball games. When those guys played together, I think it's like 20-some games is the sample, but I think they won a very healthy amount.
Yeah.
And that I think that group would have worked.
Could have.
And then the pandemic hit, and it's just like, once again, just everything washed. But something that's, you could say it's their fault for drafting those personalities, but certainly they can't control the pandemic. Just a disaster after disaster for the Brooklyn Nets. I didn't even realize their lottery history is that bad. That's a case study. When you're trying to just look at things that stick out and don't make sense. The Brooklyn Nets might have some of the worst luck in any sports franchise. I think we always talk about what's the worst sports franchise. You'll hear Browns, Jets, and you'll maybe hear Wizards, but I think the Brooklyn Nets
have an argument.
Might have one of the best arguments to be the most cursed franchise.
The Nets' number one overall pick history. In 1990, they took Derek Coleman, number one overall, played 780 games there in the NBA out of Syracuse. Then you do have to go all the way to 2000 with Kenyon Martin coming off his knee injury there at Cincinnati. He ends up with 757 games played in the NBA. They picked 7th the next year, or they had the 7th pick, but they got traded to Houston. Then you got to scroll all the way until you get to that Derek Favors draft for them to pick in the top 5. Since then, their first have been 27th, 22nd, 29th, 22nd, 27th, 29th, 17th, 19th, 27th, 21st, 8, 19, 26, 27.
My Lord.
Yeah.
I don't know any Nets fans, and now I kind of know why. They haven't had a great run to really recruit any Brooklyn Nets fans. That I think that might be the worst sports franchise, and not necessarily all by their own fault. I think that is just horrible luck combined with it.
Mm-hmm. So shout out to the lovable losers, the Brooklyn Nets. May the odds be ever in your favor. I guess.
Start rooting for the Brooklyn Nets. That touched
Pity
me.
rooting.
Yeah, that story touched my heart. I feel really bad for those guys. That's way worse than anything I could have imagined. When you started going down the list, I was like, all right, this is getting bad. And you just painted the most hideous picture of just bad luck. And it's one thing, like,
because in the NFL, at least the Browns and Jets are just like honestly incompetent.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, I don't have a soft spot for the Browns because it's like, you knuckleheads.
Dumb.
Yeah, like, what are you doing? You drafted Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders. By the way, Deshaun Watson's contract's coming up, so have fun picking which one you start this upcoming season. But it's easy not to root for them. The Brooklyn Nets, like, that's just tough luck. It's not even all on them. And usually when I've probably been a little too harsh talking about the Brooklyn Nets. You just assume for that long of a period, it's got to be some self-inflicted wounds there. And for the most part, it's not. It's just horrible luck. Shout out Brooklyn.
Fare thee well, Jordy Fernandez. The road does not get any easier. We'll go to break. We'll wrap up Old School, get you set up for Royals and White Sox kicking off a 3-game set. That's next on Old School.
Watch Old School live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Fight fans! Dynasty Combat Sports returns to the Pinnacle Bank Arena on Friday, May 15th for an action-packed night of cage fights. In the main event, UFC veteran Derek Minner makes his bare-knuckle MMA debut against Eduardo Peralta. In the co-main event, undefeated bare-knuckle boxer Nate Morrow faces Missouri's Ira Lukowski, plus Lincoln favorites Sean Lindgren, Jeremy Small, Victor Badola, and Camden Golden. All part of a stacked 16-fight lineup. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster or the arena box office. Fight card subject to change.
Hey, this is Jay Foreman, the host of Old School, 3 to 6 p.m. here at 93.7 The Ticket. And one of my favorite things to do is come down and meet all the fans before and after as they cheer on our beloved Huskers.
This message is brought to you by the Downtown Lincoln Association and 93.7 The Ticket.
93.7 The Ticket. Fox KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, we'll see decreasing clouds throughout the day. It'll be breezy and warm with an afternoon high near 85. Tonight, mainly clear skies and a light breeze, the low around 51. Tomorrow, we'll see lots of sunshine and light winds, an afternoon high near 82. I'm meteorologist Kyle Klecker for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
The crack of the bat, sizzling concessions. Yeah, that's the sound of summer at Haymarket Park. It's been that way for 25 seasons. And in this city, it's not a matter of if you'll catch a game, it's how many.
Safe.
That's because there's always something in play for Salt Dogs fans. From saluting our troops to Friday night fireworks, your local tradition plays on. Let's show summer how Lincoln celebrates 25 seasons. Get your tickets at saltdogs.com.
Bauer Underground has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know that the best workers in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and a pedigree of success. They're offering top-notch benefits, a matching 401k, and a $600 per year clothing allowance. Bauer Underground, a family-friendly company with plenty of room for advancement.
Nominations for the Step Forward Awards are now open. These awards are the state's most prestigious awards for volunteerism, and we need your help to find outstanding volunteers from your region of the state. If you know a volunteer who deserves to be honored for their service, visit serve.nebraska.gov and click Nominate Now. Nominations must be submitted by June 1st. Paid for by Serve Nebraska, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Life happens. Unexpected bills, tough choices. Your car needs repairs, but your child needs new shoes. What do you decide? At Nebraska Children and Families Foundation, they help families before small problems become breaking points. They connect parents to support so they can keep working, so kids stay secure, and so families stay together. Help Lincoln families thrive. Donate to Nebraska Children and Families Foundation through Give to Lincoln.
Are you craving the ultimate game day experience? Red Zone Sports Bar and Grill has your front row seat. Dive into delicious wings, juicy burgers, and frosty drinks, all served up with TVs covering every inch of the walls so you'll never miss a play. Stop in for their incredible daily specials like $3 tall boys on Mondays, 5 wings for less than $6 on Wednesdays, and $20 beer buckets on Fridays. Red Zone Sports Bar and Grill right by the Lincoln Airport at 3111 Northwest 12th Street.
Select Plumbing and Utility has been serving Lincoln and the surrounding area for 14 years, and they're not slowing down. Select Plumbing and Utility handles all your plumbing needs from faucets and water heaters to full renovations, and they can even help with your heating and cooling needs. They're also Lincoln's underground experts, repairing and replacing broken underground water and sewer lines since day one. Contact Select Plumbing and Utility today at 402-560-6197, assuring excellence in every situation, opportunity, and challenge. That's 402-560-6197.
At Cedars, we're here to make sure that kids have the safety and stability that every child deserves, where they're protected and where they feel safe. You make this possible. Today, more than ever, we need your support to be here for kids who have nowhere else to call home. Now through May 28th, make a big impact through Give to Lincoln. Give to Cedars now at givetolincoln.com.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
Back to Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Back to Old School one final time, just a couple minutes to go before we get you out to, what is it now, Guaranteed Rate Field out there in Chicago on the south side for Royals and White Sox. Austin Orman, Harrison Arons with you. Harrison, measurements today at the NBA Draft Combine. We have measurements in for 3 of the top players in this draft. We'll call them the big 3 between A.J. Debonsa, Darren Peterson, and Cam Boozer. We will take them in that order. A.J. Debonsa measures 6'8.5" without shoes. Weighs 217 pounds, a 7'1/4" wingspan, 8'10" standing reach at 19.2 years of age. There is an NBA wing still in the league who had some very comparable measurements. Care to hazard a guess?
I was going to say LaMelo Ball, but you said wing.
Yes, wing.
I got no wings at the top of my head. You can just go ahead and give it to me.
Paul George. Paul George, coming out of Fresno State, had about a 1/4 inch of height on A.J. Debonsa, weighed in 3 pounds lighter, had a wingspan an inch shorter, but a standing reach an inch higher somehow.
For some reason, I just thought Paul George was taller than that.
He probably grew, right? Because he was only 20 at that age,
yeah.
so probably had some final growing to do. But that's the physical comp for A.J. Debonsa, a Paul George-sized player.
Okay. I mean, I like that. That makes total sense. We'll see. It doesn't mean they'll play like Paul George, but
we'll get to
you
this.
like the measurables.
Indeed. Darren Peterson measures in 6'4.5", barefoot, 199 pounds, 6'9 3/4" wingspan, 8'7" standing reach at 19.3 years of age. His comp, according to Draft Express, John Givney, is a legend in the NBA ranks. Not a guy that is one of my favorite players. I think is probably slightly overrated historically, but still darn good in his own right.
Not playing anymore?
No, not playing anymore, and has some local ties.
6'4".
Tenuous local ties. But.
I'm blanking on a 6'4" guard.
Best known for his time in the 305.
No idea.
Dwayne Wade. Measured at 6'3" and 3/4, 212, so a little slightly shorter and about 15 pounds heavier than Darren Peterson.
Should have got that one. I've seen Dwayne Wade at Memorial Stadium.
Yeah, with wingspan 1 inch longer than Darren Peterson, standing reach 1 inch shorter. He was also 2 years older than Darren Peterson at the time of the combine. The other one is Cam Boozer, measured in at 6'8" and 1/4, 253 for the weight, 7'1" and 1/2 wingspan, 9 foot standing reach at not quite 19 years of age. His comp also is best known for his time in the 305. You mentioned his name in the first segment of the show.
I mentioned the first. I'm trying to reach back.
It's the first segment of the hour, as we were talking about.
305 connections.
He still plays for this franchise, been a one franchise guy. Better known for his defense, whereas I don't think Cam Boozer will be known for his defense. If I give you the next hint, dating a WNBA superstar.
Not good with relationships. I don't follow that.
Bam Adebayo.
Oh, that makes sense.
Adebayo measures in 1/2 inch taller, 10 pounds lighter, wingspan about 1 1/4 inches longer with the same standing reach at about essentially 1 full year older.
What was the weight on Bam?
243 and Cam Boozer listed at 253.
Okay, geez, Cam's a big guy. Cam's even ever.
Cam's a tank.
It's a freight train right there.
Yeah,
250.
But again, with the same vertical jump as Cooper Flagg.
You like that? You like
them?
Some interesting prospects. It'll be fun to see. This year's NBA draft, I'll say this much before we get out of here. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think there's interesting prospects. It's not going to have the major splash like a Zion or a Victor, but you got a lot of interesting teams in there. We went through the winners and losers to watch some situations and keep praying for the Brooklyn Nets that it gets better.
Godspeed to the Brooklyn Nets. Best of luck to all these prospects competing at the NBA Draft Combine. We will be watching it closely. Big thanks to all the people that provided some of that information and context on the show. Thanks to Nick Wyman. Harrison, thanks to you for sitting in these last 2 hours, my friend.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
Jay Foreman back tomorrow, full 3 hours of Old School. Don't forget, state baseball comes your way on Friday. Stay tuned for that Friday to Friday. Big thanks to Graham Tire for their sponsorship of the show. Proudly serving the Midwest for 75 years. More than just tires, they do all kinds of car and light truck repairs too. From brakes to oil changes, you can trust Graham Tire for service you can count on. Graham Tire, getting you to the places that matter most. Ticket Weeknights continues on stream. It'll be the Royals and the White Sox live on the Brick and Mortar. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency,